We would appreciate that. All right. Who else we got here? Rodrigo, good to see you. It's been a while. And scrolling down. I think Middle Child, good to have you here. Glendarella, welcome to our show for the first time. We are 25 seconds away. Ryan Bledsoe is our guest tonight. Sir Wolf, good to see you. Thank you for joining us. Fapster, thanks for coming on in, buddy. Grant W., welcome to the show. And Persevere. MHRC, thank you, from England. Good morning to you. Great way to support this show, everyone. If you're new, please hit that subscribe button. The super chat is open. Give us a thumbs up. And if you're interested in T-shirts, go to facebook.com/the SOR Vault. We're 5 seconds away. We're going to have a great time with Ryan Bledsoe tonight. Here we go. Central British Columbia to you listening around the world. This, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America and digitally on KPNL, TalkStream Live, and Revolution Radio. If you want to take a listen to our archives, they are free for you by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do old Davey the favor. Hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirt's SOR Newswire. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. Oh, do we have a good one for you tonight. Ryan Bledsoe is the son of Christopher Bledsoe, an experiencer who has made headlines all around the world regarding his UFO and extraterrestrial contact. So much so, the Bledsoe family, for years, has been inundated with studies from government officials to university professors. Just a few weeks ago, on UAPresearch.com, I actually had the pleasure of giving Ryan his first ever public interview regarding the happenings of the family. It was a difficult choice for him to decide to come out and go public, but he also felt it was time rather than just having his father carry the burden. The story is long, it is arduous, it's emotional, but it's real. And the family continues to live through this on a daily basis. We'll get to Ryan in a moment. Then in the bottom of hour number 3, I will bring you the SOR Newswire, brought to you by Paranoia Magazine. Ryan Bledsoe, how are you, my friend? It's good to have you on Spaced Out Radio for the first time.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me here today, Dave. Hadn't done an interview in a while, so I got to kind of get back into the swing of things here. But, I'm happy to be here, for sure.
Ryan, for you, I mean, your family being thrown into this entire phenomena, it has to be a tough way to grow up. For you, even though your family is close, you have morals, you have values, you have everything that a close family should have, why has this journey been difficult for all of you?
Yeah, I would say it's been difficult. Well, for starters, like we talked about on Beyond Humanity, it's kind of hard being a 13-year-old kid and every adult in your life thinks that your dad is clinically insane. So it started off, only the kids believed him, me and my siblings. And that was hard to adjust to, not really having anybody to turn to talk about it with. Definitely not easy. And I always believed my dad. I knew he wasn't crazy. But I remember, like, my aunt leaving me her phone number written down on a piece of paper and saying things like, hey, if you need me, come get you. I'll let you live with me. Having preachers come to the house praying, the demons away and things like that. It was a very scary time at first, but I always believed my dad.
And that's important. You want to be able to support your family and be tight. I mean, this was an adventure you guys carried on. You didn't ask for it, but it's happened. But there's also, Ryan, a lot of people out there who may not know your story. So let's take a few minutes right now and go back in time to a a nightly fishing trip that your brother was on, your dad was on with a few guys that he worked with.
Yeah, sure. Forgive me if I come off as nervous. It's just sometimes it can,
that's all right, brother.
I'm not really used to this whole thing. But yeah, so the fishing trip. So you just want me to kind of roll back and go through it for the people that haven't heard. Okay.
Yes, please.
So 2007, January 8th. So just for reference, I was 13 years old. I'm 27 years old now. So that's 14 years ago. My father was he was very sick. He had Crohn's disease, and he was pretty much on the verge of losing his business at the time, or at least it was sort of going downhill because he couldn't manage it so well with stress and other things. Like he had a doctor who was giving him very poisonous medications at the time. Not many people really know that, but he was pretty much pronounced dead because of the toxicity levels from the medications he was given, and he was practically on his deathbed. At some point, he was actually declared dead, and they revived him at some point. But he had my mom sign his business over, sold the business. We lost everything pretty much, and we're at rock bottom. So this is during that time, in the wake of, not being able to manage the business from being so sick, being poisoned by the doctor, having insane flare-ups from Crohn's disease. So we moved to a new property, and Dad's just ready to give up. He's pretty much asking God. He's in prayer. He's like, either kill me or heal me. That's just what he told me all these years. So he's out there on the Cape Fear River, which is a huge river in North Carolina. It pretty much goes from one side of the state to the other. And he's out there deep in the woods fishing on the river with my brother and three of his subcontractors, I guess you could say. Construction. I don't think I mentioned that, but it was a construction business. So they just finished a little project, and they're fishing, and, I don't know how deep you want me to get into it, Dave, but do you want me to kind of walk through that? Or
let's take a couple of minutes and walk through what happened during the fishing trip.
Okay, sure, yeah. So he's pretty much asking God, kill him or heal him. He doesn't want to deal with just the pain and the stress and everything anymore. And so that night, we later found out he had missing time. He walks to the top of the embankment. It's like this secluded, wooded area, deep in the I don't know. I'm trying to paint the picture here. I know people have heard it, but then there's people that haven't heard it. Basically, from the street, it's about a mile down to this secluded little embankment with trees. Like, nobody could see this from the road, right? So he walks all the way back up to the street, and then he sees these lights in the sky. He sees two lights, and then a third one shoots up. It's kind of the abridged version. And my brother at the time was in the woods, again, about a mile from the street. So no cars passing or anybody could have seen this. And there's these two little beings that are sort of keeping my brother held in place. Like, when they look at him, he can't move. He can't even scream. He can't cry, even though he wanted to. He was a 17-year-old kid, scared the daylights out of him. So my dad sees these orbs. About 4 hours later, he walks back down to the other guys. They're all freaked out. And he didn't realize he was, missing for 4 hours. For him, it was about a 15-minute endeavor, walking up, walking back. And they're all freaking out. They all jump in the truck. They're like, "Where have you been, Chris?" And he can't process in his head that he had missing time. He didn't consciously realize that. It was about a year until he realized that. So they're all scrambling. My dad, my brother, and the three contractors, they jump in the truck. They scramble to get out of there. They drive up the embankment and to the road, and there's just this big craft blocking their truck from leaving the river. It, pretty much flies away. They see it at various points. My dad gets home, and there's a couple beings in the yard. Most people know that there was one being in the yard, but there's a different part of the story he doesn't really tell a whole lot, another detail. So he walks out to the backyard in our woods. Again, in the country, we had a very secluded property with a lot of trees. It's about 6 acres. He walks back into the woods in our yard, and he sees a little 3 to 4 foot tall being, just like what my brother saw in the woods earlier. And I know this is a little bridged. I didn't expect to be telling this story today, so kind of caught me off guard. But my dad walks to the backyard. He sees this little 3 or 4 foot like glowing being, and then at some point later that night, he looks out the blinds and he sees like a 7 or 8 foot tall being that was, really frightening looking. So fast forward a little bit, about half a year. Actually, no. From that moment, it was a year because it took him 10 months to report the story. MUFON comes on the scene, the whole deal. They investigate us. They make a documentary on the Discovery Channel. So for the viewer that doesn't know who my father is, it's called UFOs Over Earth. It's a Discovery Channel documentary. And it was basically a hack job. They made my dad and all of us, they made us look like a bunch of idiots. They pretty much said that we were inconclusive on the lie detector test, and for that reason we couldn't necessarily be believed, even though what they did was they asked him the same 30-plus questions over and over again over 4 hours until he psychologically broke and got an inconclusive answer. So MUFON was real shady. They did they gathered radiation samples from our yard, and they lost that somehow. Every bit of data that they collected from our yard, they somehow lost it, and they wouldn't submit it to us. So, going forward from that,
it was a tough time.
Go ahead.
It was a tough time.
Yeah, that's the point. Is it was a tough time from it happening, being a little kid, being really told by everybody that it was either demonic or it was insane or it didn't really happen, even though we were all seeing things as a family. And then MUFON basically coming in and being shady, losing all the data. They brought a regressionist, a Harvard psychologist named Dr. Michael O'Connell, and he put my dad under a regression, and a lot of stuff came out about the night, specifically the missing time, what happened during that 4 hours of missing time. And
what did happen?
What
did happen?
Okay, good question. So what happened was they took him on board the craft. And before I go any further, and I didn't expect to be telling the story about Dad, so that kind of caught me off guard, but I'm going to stop myself briefly and say for any listener who is not familiar with this, I would recommend the Richard Dolan series part 1 through 4, where my father tells it himself. I was not there that night, and me trying to tell the story is like trying to remember a memory of my father telling it to me, but he was actually there, so definitely want to listen to his account of it. But anyway, so what happened when he was on the craft, based on what he's told me since I was a little kid, these beings, the 7 to 8 foot tall beings, they had him on board, and he described it like you're in a glass room. There's no walls. It's like you're in space, and you're standing on a platform in the dark. It's like there's no exterior. There's an interior, but there's no exterior from the inside, if that makes sense. Or maybe I have that backwards. It's like you're floating when you're on this thing, right? And they had him on like a table, and there was a light around him, and he was scared, and they took the fear from him, and they told him, your son's fine. Don't worry about your son. We're going to show you some things. And they showed him many things, like I know recently in an interview he talked about the New York City thing. He I don't know if you're familiar with that, Dave, but I'll go ahead and repeat it. He started getting visions back in 2008, 2009, like, bomb going off in New York City. He was told these things don't have to happen. He saw, trying to think about what he hasn't said and what he has, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, let me ask you this. I mean, because as a child, we love our parents,
yeah.
And we want to believe our parents when they tell us something. But, when your dad sat you down and the family down and told what had just happened, and then I believe, throughout the next while of time, he was waking you kids up in the middle of the night to watch these orbs and craft fly by, which was almost getting to a nightly basis. As a child growing up, you want to believe your dad, but at some point, did you ever think that what is happening to my family, this doesn't seem right, this doesn't seem Christian, it doesn't seem very popular to be talking about this? What emotions did you go through?
Yeah, I never thought it was wrong. I never thought that it was evil or demonic or anything of that nature. From the day that I heard about it till now, I always believed that my father was telling the truth. I never for a second doubted it. What I always doubted was why my aunts and uncles and friends and relatives and other people were telling me that my dad was crazy. That's what I didn't like, and that deeply disturbed me. Um, my dad is a very intelligent man. He's a very good man, and he's not the type that would say something he doesn't mean. He's very short to the point. And ever since I was a child, he always told me, you have two ears and you have one mouth. So listen before you speak. He's just that kind of guy. He doesn't BS. And so it was what was going through my head was pain because I was seeing these things with him. The lights in the sky. My mom was seeing them, yet nobody believed him. They all turned their backs on him. They thought he was crazy, whatever. And he was telling me they were angels. That's kind of what I was trying to get to. I'm sort of spinning my gears. You're asking me questions that people haven't asked me, but
no,
go ahead.
that's fine. And, your family going through this, and all of a sudden having I mean, for people who don't know, you're a very religious, God-fearing family. You are some you are you guys were pillars of the community. Dad was successful business before his health. You were popular in the church. Your dad, I believe, was a deacon. You were popular in
He was.
You were popular in the community, and then all of a sudden to have your entire church, your family, your community laughing at you, making fun of you, and bullying you guys. I mean, how does a family stick together through those types of trials and tribulations?
It doesn't always. Like my oldest brother, Chris Jr., he had a very hard time with this. He was there that night on the Cape Fear River, and it deeply traumatized him. Um, I believe I told you this on Beyond Humanity, but my mom didn't believe my brother was telling the truth until 2 years after it happened when he was 19 years old. Why? Because he had a minor surgery and he was on anesthesia. He's riding home from the doctor's office and there's a big truck in front of us. And when the truck hit the brakes, the red lights from the brakes came on and he's, loopy on anesthesia. He starts freaking out in the car. Oh my gosh, Mom, it's the eyes. They're here. They're here. And my mom put two and two together. She's like, my son wouldn't lie to me when he's on anesthesia. So I love my mom. If she's going to listen to this, I'm not trying to put my mom down. But even my own mother didn't believe her own son. And then you remember the story, my grandfather didn't believe his son, my dad. So it's just this, it's like, where does it end when you have this deeply traumatic experience that you see with your eyes and you share it with people, and even someone who's closer to you than anyone else in the world tells you you're a liar? It's just hard to process. It's hard to, it makes you very guarded. So for that reason, we did stay very close because the five of us, like my brothers, my sister, my dad, me, we knew that this stuff was real. We kind of had this like pact that, we're very careful who we share it with, whatever. But it wasn't always easy. It wasn't always fun. My oldest brother, Chris Jr., he didn't talk about it for many years. And then my next older brother, Jeremy, he moved away because he didn't necessarily want to be around it all the time. So it looks cool. Like, I want to put it this way. When people are on the internet and they look up UFOs or they Google, Bigfoot, whatever, they think it's all cool. They think it's like Will Smith pops in with a noisy cricket, he shoots one, and then they all go get a little Danish after they save New York City from an alien invasion. It ain't like that. It's more like trauma. It's more like you see this stuff and then everyone says you're a liar and a lunatic and you're crazy and you're a cult leader. It's trauma. It's not fun. It's not glorious, but people think it is because they see it on the internet. It takes resolve.
Now let's focus on you here because you're 13, 14 years old as this happens. That's a tough time to be at any age, even with no problems going around. I mean, you're figuring out who you are, you're figuring out, girls, you're figuring out what your place is in school. All of a sudden, those who were your friends are now the bullies, and it's a tough time for any teenager. Now you throw this on your shoulders. What was your teenage years like?
Well, my friends kind of have a running joke, like my friends that are still my friends today, all these years later, that our house was scary, whatever. Like Bigfoot would eat you if you stayed in the yard. I did have some supportive friends that to this day we still talk about. Like I have a very good friend, Jacob. He's listening right now. Um, Back in those days, we were seeing things together, and other friends of mine, and they loved it, and we always talked about it. And then I had some friends that told me it was crazy or it was kooky, or they roll their eyes when I bring it up. So during my teenage years, it was hard to sort of vet who I could share this with because I was burned. Like even my best friends, I'd be playing Xbox with them or whatever, and we'd be playing a game, and like a little airplane would fly by in the sky in the video game. And I had some friends that would say, "Oh, look, it's a UFO," and they laugh at me, and then I'm just like, that's not funny, guys. Come on. So even your own friends will turn on you. Your own grandpa, your own mom, your own dad. If you see this stuff and you look them in the eye with conviction, it doesn't matter who it is. Like they'll turn on you if they have any sort of doubt in their heads or whatever. So to go back to your question, I'm sorry, I'm rambling.
No, I think it paints a great picture.
Growing up as a
yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, to get back to your question, being a teenager with this stuff was difficult. In some ways, it made me more of a paranoid person, not like a paranoid schizophrenic, but paranoid in the sense that, if you share things with people, they're going to be judging you. They're going to be talking about you because they were. The whole town was talking about us. I had, teachers pull me after class and in private tell me, they saw things when they were little. They had newspaper clippings, like my art teacher, Miss Warwick. And then I had other teachers whose names I won't say who weren't exactly nice about it, and they'd make me stand in front of class and talk about the documentary in front of all the cute girls and all my friends and stuff. And it's like, really embarrassing. So teenage years were weird with this stuff, for sure.
We've got 2 minutes before we have to go to break. At the bottom of the hour, Ryan Bledsoe is our guest tonight. Ryan, how does the community treat you and your family now?
Like in Fayetteville? Like our local area?
Yeah.
Oh, we don't deal with them. We don't really. I mean, we have family and that's it.
Is there still tension?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, for sure. I mean, they don't want to hear this stuff. They never will, because this is not. What's funny, Dave? Just before I go into that answer, what's funny is if you hear me and Dad, we talk about God and that this is divine, it's spiritual, whatever. But our own family doesn't even know that because they can't get past the UFO. They can't get past that part. It's not about, it's not Sunday conversation, so we're not allowed to talk about it. But if they actually listen to what we had to say, we're sitting here talking about God. And it's just ironic. But no, yeah, there's a lot of tension. We still can't talk about it in our own little private community. It's very rare. And the funny thing about that is some of them have even seen things with us, but they don't acknowledge it to this day. It's like, you're banned. You can't talk about this. It's Pentecostal, very strict conversation.
Why stay there?
Well, I mean, family's family. We love them. It's where we're from. At this point in the game, 14 years later, I don't hate or dislike anybody that doesn't believe it. It's just, especially after speaking with people like CIA people, invisible college people, they've kind of led me to understand people are programmed. You're never going to change them. There's nothing we've done that's wrong. We share our truth. That's the best we can do. If they don't believe, it doesn't mean they're bad people. It doesn't mean they hate us. It just they can't process it. And it's more like, feel sorry for them, dude, because they can't handle the truth, No, that's kind of where I'm at.
I totally get that. Ryan, I'm going to get you to hold on right there because we are going to go to break here at the bottom of the hour, and we're going to have a bunch of questions for you. I know the audience in our chat rooms already has a bunch of questions. We're going to try and get to some of those questions in hour number 2. Ryan Bledsoe is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. The Bledsoe Phenomena, 14 years, and it continues to this day. Premonitions, ET sightings, contact, the lady. We got a lot to go on tonight with our guest, Ryan Bledsoe. Stay tuned. Tonight's warm-up?
Yeah. Can they hear me?
Yep, they can all hear you.
Well, good. what's the point of the commercial if they can hear us?
I have to take breaks so that way when it goes to the on the radio side, they're in commercial right now.
Gotcha. Okay, but the YouTube can hear us.
But YouTube is like a live hot feed behind the scenes.
Gotcha.
And Spreaker as well.
Yeah, man. Just I don't have a whole lot of experience. I don't know. Some days I feel great, and some days it's like I got to ease into it. So, I'm gonna do what I can.
We're getting there, man. You're doing great.
Yeah.
You're doing great.
It's always you, Dave, who makes me talk about this emotional stuff, man. All the other guys want to hear about the,
humanity, man.
I love it.
You know what though? It's funny because me being an experiencer as well. What a lot of things that you're talking about resonates with some of the things I've gone through. Okay, so it's very much something that everybody wants to know the science. Everybody wants to know the big name players, and a lot of times what I've noticed is we forget about the people. So I try and bring a different angle to it. So
that's what makes you stand out from all the rest. Is everybody wants to say, what's it look like, what happened, what did it tell you, what did it show you, and I don't know. I guess that's what I appreciate about you so much is the empathy.
But I also told you that was going to happen. Remember?
I know, and you did. And I don't know. It's just, I'll get there.
Well, the big thing is
lead the way.
Just the big thing is, as long as you're true to yourself, that's all that matters, man. When I saw the aliens. Or the alien in the forest with Samantha Mowat, it changed me.
You were with her?
Yeah.
And you interviewed her, right?
Yeah.
Right on Beyond Humanity.
Yeah. Samantha and I, if you go onto her YouTube channel, which is Samantha Mowat, we do a 48-minute video of what her and I saw that day in the forest. And it was 2:00 in the afternoon.
I'll have to check this out.
And it was, people who haven't had that close encounter, there's two different types of encounters to me. Okay, there's the dream encounter or the encounters that happen at night, which could be a dream, could be a nightmare. Okay, could be our imagination.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's the stuff that happens when we're wide awake. My encounter with Samantha happened at 2:00 in the afternoon. Your dad and your brother's scenario happened in the evening, but they were still awake. And so many times with the experiencers that we see, we're only hearing the nighttime terrors that are happening. They might not be terrors, but just to use that terminology, rather than being wide awake like you and I sitting here right now, and all of a sudden, let's say an alien popped up behind me, right? I mean, that's where it, kind of changes things, when you see it with your own eyes, right? And it's emotional.
Yeah.
And the one thing that I love about your story is, the way that I think it's pretty awesome, the way you kind of, you're not, lack of a better term, chicken shit to stand up for your family.
Yeah.
And I admire that. I really do.
I appreciate that.
So I think it's cool.
I think it's more like stubbornness.
Could be. But that's also a good character trait as well. Give me a couple of seconds. We got a minute here. Everyone, I'm going to tell you, tonight I'm giving away 4 shirts, including, I'm going to mess them all up. I'm giving away a Bigfoot shirt. I'm giving away a We Own the Night shirt.
Ooh.
I'm giving away a Woo Train shirt. And I'm giving away a long sleeve We Own the Night. Okay, I'm giving these away. You have to be in our chat room at the end of the night, end of the show, okay, in order to qualify. This is to celebrate us getting 10,000 subscribers a week and a half ago. And I want you guys to get some swag. You're also going to get a couple of real cool stickers, a poster, and don't forget you get your free piece of coaxial cable, too. Here we go. Second half hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for joining us. I want to remind you that if you miss portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and checking out Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. We continue on tonight with Ryan Bledsoe, son of Chris Bledsoe, talking about the Bledsoe phenomena. And right before the break, we were talking about what it's like for you in the community. I want to ask you, Ryan, do you remember your first experience?
Wow, no one's ever asked me that before. I don't even know if I remember my first experience. And the reason I say that is because you mentioned earlier, it got to the point where it was almost nightly that Dad was sort of yanking us out of bed or yanking us out of the house or whatever. We went out there so many hundreds of times that we saw so many different things. I can't really pinpoint a first. I will tell you my first significant experience where it was like I marked the time and the date and it just stood out. This was not my first sighting, but it was my first major sighting. So it was I was 15 years old. So let me do very quick little math here. 2008 or 9, let's just put it that way. Long time ago, obviously 12 years ago. I guess 2009. So it was one of those days where, you know, in that day, Dad was still yanking us. Come on, we got to go right now. They're outside. We got to see them. You know, like the lights in the sky and whatnot. And it was about 4 in the morning. My room and my brother Jeremy's rooms. Well, my brother Chris Jr. was out of the house. So me and my brother had these rooms that were across from each other, right? So we kind of were like neighbors in the house. So my dad came and yanked both of us out of our beds, made us rush to the back door, 4 in the morning on a school day, and we looked out the back door at this massive, it was like a black, somehow seemingly metallic, but you couldn't really make out the shape because the light coming off of it was so bright, so brilliant. So it was this massive form engulfed in light, right? And it was sitting above the trees for about 2 hours. We sat there just in a daze watching this thing. And this was a Christmas tree farm behind our house, sort of like this huge wooded area, right? So nobody could see this, really, unless you were standing in our yard. It's not like you could really see it from the road. And it was 4 a.m. anyway. We just sat there and looked at it, and it slowly descended into the Christmas tree forest. I remember the date because it was my father's birthday. It was October 15th. And I remember the time because I got up, you know, for school at the same exact time every day, and my schedule was disturbed. I'm the kind of guy where I always check my watch, you know, especially if it's like morning, getting ready, that kind of thing. I freak out if I think I'm going to be late or whatever. So 4 a.m., yanks me out of bed, watch this thing till 6. Then I go take another hour nap or whatever, and then get up at 7 and I go to school. So that was my first major sighting. Just a normal school day, seeing this giant orb in the backyard.
Okay, your family started grabbing attention, first from MUFON, and then that was a failed effort. Where did it go from there? How did it go from having the experience to MUFON coming in, and then all of a sudden government officials start coming in, university professors start studying? How did it go so fast and so drastic so quickly?
Okay, so when he had the experience on January 8th, he waited 10 months to report it to MUFON, right? Because he was afraid my mom would leave him and he would lose his kids. And after 10 months, he couldn't stand it anymore. He said, I don't care what happens, I have to tell it. And then within weeks, MUFON was at our house. So the whole MUFON thing happened. They hacked us to pieces with their documentary. And then the following summer, after the MUFON documentary, so the following summer, whatever year that was, I can't quite remember. I was in high school for sure. Hal Povenmire shows up and knocks on the door. It's summer break, so I'm home from school. It's about 11 a.m., 12, something like that. Rings the doorbell, I go answer, and next thing you know, he's in our lives for 11 years. And then what really kicked off the, beyond Hal from NASA and then the MUFON thing, what really kicked it off was in 2012, my dad saw the lady, which if your viewer is not familiar with that, Easter 2012, he saw this glowing apparition, and we just call her the lady. And I'm sure we'll go more into that in a little bit. So when he saw the lady, Dad and I went to a MUFON event in Asheville, North Carolina, that we later found out was orchestrated by Dr. Diana Pasulka just to meet him. And when he got there, he was talking about the lady, and it caught the attention of Diana Pasulka and some other people who happened to be at the MUFON event. It started spreading around all little internet forums and stuff, and intelligence people like Invisible College, like Tyler Durden from American Cosmic. Of course, back then he didn't know Diana, but if you read American Cosmic by Dr. Diana Pasulka, there's this group of people called the Invisible College. They're like an elite insider group. Well, they caught wind of it by my dad speaking publicly about the lady. So then come to find out that these groups know that the lady is real, and that's what kicked it off, Dave, was the lady. Beforehand, they all knew we were telling the truth, but they're like, he's not going to have any more experiences. We did our job, trying to shut him up with the MUFON thing. When he started seeing the lady, they started getting really big eyes, and they wanted to know what Dad had to say, and they've been coming around ever since.
The lady we'll get into in a little bit
Sure.
here, okay? Because we need a lot of time for that section of the show. But for the fact that now your humble little family is now being contacted by NASA, by government officials, by university professors, thanks to Diana Pasulka, that had to be not only a little bit of vindication, but did you have any fear in that as well, that these scientists, these government agencies, had your and your family's best interest at heart?
Yeah, I mean, I was a kid, so for most of this, kids aren't usually really scared, if that makes sense. Everything's cool when you're a kid in some way. And now as an adult, I feel that way. Like, who is this guy? I need to hear him out before I invite him over to my place. Dad was always cautious. Like, let me just say this. A lot of people don't trust what my dad has to say because he has friends in intelligence. But let me just ask a rhetorical question. What ordinary person would not open their door to somebody with a CIA badge and think it was so cool? Who wouldn't say, come in, I want to hear what you have to say? People don't get it. Like, when it really happens in person, it's different than, oh, wow, people in intelligence, like, I wouldn't talk to them. Yes, you would. Everybody would. It's just, it's crazy. It doesn't happen to the normal person, So when these people were coming around, we, post-MUFON, of course we didn't necessarily trust what they had to say, but then when Hal Povenmire showed up, he was so nice to us, and then Tyler Durden came around, and he had a lot of really interesting things to tell us. We started to realize at first they wanted to say we were liars. Now they're interested in what we have to say. We're going to let them keep coming around. So, we don't always trust them, but we at least entertain them.
Right.
Does that kind of answer? Was there any other part of the question?
No. I think that's good. I mean, you entertain them, you give them what you have, because
right.
That's all you have. What's the worst thing that's going to happen? Correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Worst thing would be to put a bullet in her head.
Well, that may ruin a day and a hairdo, but I mean, at any time, were you as a family threatened by these government agencies?
Okay, I think I see where this is headed. So let me be very careful in my response here. We were not threatened by an agency, but we were threatened by people who are, through association, connected to these agencies. So, like, we've definitely had some comments of, in more recent years, in the last 3 years, people making comments about putting a bullet in my mom's head or my brother's head, or, if we really wanted to, we could just have a cement truck accidentally run you over at a red light. No one would ever know any different. People have made comments like that for sure. Recently, actually, you know what? I'm just going to say it. The night that I went on Fade to Black with Jimmy Church, I was contacted by some people basically telling me not to say certain things, and I kind of figured out who they were, and I called Jim Semivan about it. I mean, I get bothered by one spook, so I call another spook to make sure everything's all right. That's just, we're not always just loving what these people have to say. It's not always coffee. Sometimes it's like, what do they want? Why are they harassing me? Sort of deal. And I'm being a little careful about some of the things that. Yeah, you have to be.
You have to be. And once again, I mean, for our audience sake, I may ask some questions that Ryan doesn't feel comfortable with, and we know, and he knows that if he's not comfortable with answering them, just say he's going to tell us, I don't want to answer that. So you got to, this is very sensitive in this topic because these agencies really reached out to you. But people like Jim Semivan and others of that ilk have almost been like protective bodyguards to you and your family, because I remember talking to your dad about this in San Francisco last year, where he felt safer than ever knowing who was on Team Bledsoe due to the studies and due to the friendships that were built.
Right, that's correct.
Please go ahead.
Well, I was just going to tell a story. One time my dad was going to go out to the Hollywood area. Most people know that we've kind of had an option agreement with some Hollywood screenwriters, and nothing's ever come of it, but, they still talk to us, and they still are, interested. My dad was flying out there one time, and he got a call from somebody in NASA, and this guy whose name I could not or should not say, he was active in the intelligence world through NASA, and he got drunk one night, which is a no-no for people with deeply classified information. You're not supposed to get drunk because this is why you slip things. He got drunk. He called my dad, and he said, Chris, I love you, brother. Don't go out to Hollywood. Some people that want you dead, and they'll kill you, and you'll never make it home to your family. And my dad's like, well, what do I do? He said, call the feds. Call Jim Semivan. Give him my name, and it will create – I didn't hear the conversation. I don't know his wording, but it was to the effect of it'll put some sort of keyword in these intelligence channels that would put an alert on my father. And so that's what he did. My dad called Jim Semivan. Jim Semivan recognized who the guy was. He said, don't worry about it, Chris. Go to Hollywood. Enjoy your trip. I'll make sure you feel comfortable. Your story needs to be told. So Dad gets out to Hollywood. He's having lunch with the screenwriters of The Conjuring. They're kind of like our the guys who are interested in doing our story. And his phone starts acting up. It's kind of like buggy. The screen's not working. He can't use the touch screen. So he walks outside, and there is a 40 to 45-foot Homeland Security RV. And there's guys with suits, and they just look at my dad and kind of nod at him. So Dad said, okay, thanks, Jim Semivan. And then for the rest of the week, a white van followed him around. So ever since that, we kind of realized, like, Jim was serious when he said, don't worry about it. I'll make you feel comfortable.
Now, I talked to someone, and I'm going to keep this person's name out of this, but I talked to someone and who is close to your family, and this person confirmed with me that entire story, that when they went outside and saw this big, almost like semi-truck from Homeland Security, they were blown away when that happened. I mean, that's some pull and the seriousness of why they're taking you seriously. Outside of the lady, why do you think that your dad and your family have been able to garner so much attention from these alphabet agencies? Because for years, people in ufology were always told, stay away from the spooks. They're bad for you. They're not going to do anything good. But you guys...
They still say it.
But you guys have experienced the polar opposite at times.
Yeah, well, I didn't mean to cut you off, Dave, but they still say that to us. Like, they still tell us, stay away from the spooks, and I kind of agree with it. You shouldn't just trust people, because they have a cool badge to flash. But at the same time, I think to answer your question, it's because of powerful synchronicities that are at play with the beings making them happen. What they do is when people are at our house, like Dr. John Alexander, people like Jim Semivan, and the person who you just mentioned, who I think I know who you're talking about. I'm not going to say the name, but I think I know who you're talking about. This person, if I'm correct, also has had some encounters at our house. And many others, they just so happen to come to our house and then they leave with their mind blown. It's like every time somebody of note comes over, somebody connected to an agency, Tyler Durden, he's had some things with my dad, who is an active member of the Department of Defense, and others. It's like these synchronicities line up to where these beings blow their minds, like Grant Cameron's theory of wow, right? So they have these experiences, they can't rationalize it, they can't fathom it, and they leave and they say, Chris Bledsoe's the real deal. And that has happened down the line so many times in these intelligence communities that they all know that he's telling the truth. They all know. I was on the phone with Jim Semivan 2-3 weeks ago, the day after I did Fade to Black, because I was bothered the night before by some idiot in the CIA. And I called Jim and I said, am I safe? Do I need to be worried about this dude? Like, I stayed up real late last night, paranoid. He's like, you're good. They can't do anything to you. If you ever feel scared or anything, call me. And then he said, Ryan, your dad's the guy. Like, I want to make sure that you and your dad are comfortable in every way possible. Your dad is the guy. This is his words. He said, as I understand it, your father is the one in this entire field who's telling the truth because he shares it as it's put in his head in a way that he's made to understand. And I'm coming around to understand it that way. That's what Jim said to my dad. And just, if anybody knew, who he was and why that was relevant, that's crazy,
I want to ask about Tyler here momentarily, but I want to hit you up with a question first.
Sure.
Have you figured out what your role is in all of this?
No. As far as I see it, I don't really have a role other than, I think about that a lot. And as I've always understood it, because this happened when I was a little kid, and people, I'm an adult now. Everybody I talk to is adults, but just imagine being a child and this stuff is happening. I always see it as it's my dad, it's his thing, and I'm just here to talk about it and kind of, be his artillery, like just kind of helping from the sidelines, launching off stuff, but it's not really about me. I'm just here to support my dad. I don't really feel like I have a role in this, so to speak. No one's really asked me
Do you
that.
think the entities are preparing you for something bigger?
Well, my dad tells me that, but I don't know. I mean, I don't really think about it about me. I think about it about my family and my father and what I can do to help him. To me, it's not about me,
Yeah, but now that you're married, you have somebody who you've brought into your family,
right?
Who now has the potential to have these experiences as well.
Yeah, that's true. She has with me.
How's she like having aliens?
She thinks it's really cool. She tells me, one of the jokes she keeps telling me is like, man, I can't believe when I, Google my new last name, all that ever pops up is football and aliens. She thinks it's awesome.
True.
She supports me.
And that's awesome. I want to get to Tyler here, as we got about 5 minutes to go before we go to break at the top of the hour. Ryan Bledsoe is our guest. Tyler is someone who has a lot of conviction, but they're in the UFO world, there's people who think he's wondrous, and there's people who believe that he's a con artist, and people who believe that he screwed you over as a family.
I wonder why they believe that. Well, let me put it this way. Let me clear that up. He's not a con artist. He is the real deal. What is written is true. I've met the man, and I can't say everything he told me. I can't say everything he showed me, but I have full confidence that he is the real deal. But that does not mean that I'm like worshiping this man and I'm just like praising him. I don't know this man's motivations. I don't know. I haven't talked to him in years. I don't know if he's good, if he's bad. I just know he's real. You know what I mean? And I do know for a fact that he's a part of an elite insider group of scientists, DOD people that know these secrets. I don't know what his group wants to do with these secrets, but I do know, because he told us this at some point, or he's told people associated with us that have told us that these really high up there inside people who know the secrets, they don't necessarily think that the average person is ready for them and therefore deserving of them. So I'm just going to leave it at that.
Did Tyler make a lot of money off of some of your dad's predictions or inventions?
To be technical here, they weren't predictions. What they were was it was breakthroughs in research technologies. They weren't predictions, but yes, he did.
But he never cut you guys in.
No, but we didn't ask him to. We don't ask people for money. But yes, that did happen.
There's a lot of bills that could have been paid off, like mortgages.
Well, yeah, but I mean,
I don't mean to get personal, and I can...
No, it's okay. I get it. I get why you're asking. Like, I'm not upset. It's just I want people to understand, like, we're not in this for money. It makes me laugh because people think that we're, like, rich because we made a Hollywood deal. Dude, we've paid thousands just to retain lawyers to sign dotted lines about the right to option our story. Like, we haven't collected money on this. We don't ask for money on this. It's just a true story, and we want to share it, whether we get paid or not. We've been quiet for so long because, A, we signed an option agreement saying don't talk about your story for a year and a half because of spoilers and whatnot. And B, back in 2017, someone said I could put a bullet in your wife and kid's head if you don't tell it the way I want you to. And my dad was paranoid for 3 years, like, oh my God, they're going to kill my family. And I said, Dad, they're not going to do that. Let's get over that. Let's move on. And then Easter 2019, he saw a being and it said, all right, get out and start talking again. We're not quiet because we're like trying to collect money. There's just a whole reason or a whole variety,
But humanity would suggest that, let's just say that I couldn't get to the store and you're running to the store and I say, hey, here's $5. Do you mind picking me up a lottery ticket? And my ticket hits and I win $30 million. For me not to give you any for doing me that favor, because if you didn't, I wouldn't have this right now. I mean, it's just, I guess, human decency to take care of the people who made you financially.
Well, if we're going to go there, there's many people who have used us for fame and connections and for knowledge, and we don't ask for anything in return. He would not be the only one that, in that regard, has used us for some sort of gain. And what do? We turn the other cheek, just like Jesus said. We turn the other cheek and we just let it go. We're just, we're not here to get over on people or get a one up, or we're just here to share the story. And my dad has such a good heart that he connects everybody with everybody, and he never asks for anything in return, and they burn him almost every time.
Maybe that's your job, to almost be the social bodyguard, now that you're coming out with the story.
I've kind of secretly been operating that way. Like, when people come my dad's way, I like to vet them a little bit. But I put it out there for even these a couple of these CIA people that bothered me and Dad recently. I basically put the word out. Like, if you want to get to my dad, you got to go through me. He's not going to give you the time of day. But, if you want to reach my old man, talk to me. I kind of am becoming that, like a social bodyguard. So
I think it's great. Maybe that's your role.
Maybe.
Ryan, when we come back on Spaced Out Radio, we're going to get into the lady. Who is the lady? What is the lady about? Where did she come from? What's her power? What does she possess? We're going to learn a little bit more about the famous lady that the Bledsoe family has talked about throughout their encounters over the last 14 years. If you're just tuning on in, Ryan Bledsoe is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio, son of Chris Bledsoe. It's an amazing story, an amazing encounter that continues 14 years, and there's no end in sight. We'll be back with more Spaced Out Radio with our guest, Ryan Bledsoe, right after this. I'll be honest with you. I would have suplexed Tyler and put him in a camel clutch, man. I totally would have. But that's just me. And
well,
I know YouTube. I know YouTube can hear this, but that's just me. We'll cut it out there. I'm just going to quickly run my dogs outside. I'm going to put some commercials on. You just sit back, relax. I'll be back in a couple minutes, okay?
I'm feeling a little spicy tonight. What to do? What to do?
Why not get Bumblefuck?
4 million Scoville units of pure hard rock. Bumblefoot hot sauces come in 3 flavors. The burning Bumble. Tone it down a bit with Bumblicious and throw the sauce on everything.
Spice it up. Bumble me, baby. Bumblefoot hot sauce. Get it today at kajans.com.
Hi, this is Amber Beckrud, and I want to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel where we store all of the SOR show archives for free. And as an added bonus, every 2 weeks I'm posting brand new content on Cryptid Tales, where I will get into some of the spookier legends and folklore from around the world and tell the stories that go with them. Find us at youtube.com/spacedoutradio and check out Cryptid Tales today. Drop a comment and let me know what you want to hear. See you there.
The party is always on. The Moose Band Beavers, where you know you can visit Canada's West Coast. Open until 2 a.m. nightly. The Moose brings at the rock while serving some of the best Canadian food in the city. The menu starts at $6.95. Why party anywhere else in Vancouver when the Moose is right? Get your horns up and rock with the Moose, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
For the price of 1 cup of coffee a month, you can become an SOR Space Traveler. The Space Travelers Club is a place where you can interact with other listeners, either live during the show or on our great forum. We want your stories, pictures, comments, and ideas. You'll get live video streams, exclusive content, and be a part of our newsletter. Stay in touch with everything SOR. The Space Travelers Club is just $5 a month at spacedoutradio.com.
Get your horns up with me on Spaced Out Radio. This is Ron Bumblefoot Thal. Come tune in to SOR where you can hear me rock out with Little Brother Is Watching, the official theme song of Spaced Out Radio. And then come on over to bumblefoot.com where you can find out about my tour schedule, my music, and everything else. Bumblefoot.com keeps you up to date on what I'm doing and the best way to stay in touch with my music and music camps. Sign up for my newsletter at bumblefoot.com and remember, Little Brother Is Watching.
We all know on Spaced Out Radio we love a good beard and mustache, so why not take care of your facial hair with Mighty Moose Beard Oil? Made in Canada, we're taking care of beards and stashes around the world. We use 100% natural ingredients which are oils and balms to make your whiskers feel silky smooth. Use promo code SOR2019 at MightyMooseBeard.com today.
The SOR Vault is open for business, and we have some cool swag for you to pick up. All you have to do is head over to our website and click on the SOR Vault. You have a variety of cool logos to choose from, and click on anything you want. T-shirts, hoodies, hats, coffee mugs, you name it, we can get it to you.
All right, Ryan, I'm back.
All right. Dad was texting me. I guess he's listening.
Oh. Hello, Mr. Bledsoe. How are you, my friend?
Let's see if he responds.
I hope he does.
I'm sure he will.
Oh, yeah. We got a bunch of people coming in here, so instead of typing it out, I'm going to say welcome to our chat room, Dutch Grow. Boogie Gone Down, welcome to the show. Yes, there's probably CIA listening right now. Hello to all of our good friends in the alphabet agencies tuning on in tonight. We appreciate you. Thank you so much. Hi, He's Got a Motor. Welcome to Spaced Out Radio. And we got 172 watching live right now. And any remote viewers? Do we have any remote viewers tonight tuning on in? And I'm not saying the people who are there. I'm saying people remote viewing in right now. Because, yes, that would be kind of cool. We've got about 90 seconds here, bud. 90 seconds. 5,900 buck. Welcome all the way from Salt Lake City. Good to have you here. Thank you. If you're brand new, please do us a favor. Hit that subscribe button. We really appreciate it. We're trying to get to 15,000 before May 24th, my birthday. And
I'll subscribe right now.
Well, thank you. Be like Ryan. Hit that subscribe button. It works. By the way, everybody in our chat room, you have to be in our chat room tonight. I am giving away 4 T-shirts tonight, Spaced Out Radio T-shirts. All right? And I'm doing that in honor of us rolling 10,000 a couple of weeks ago. So you have to be in our chat room after the show, which is after Ryan's done, after the news, and after the thought of the Dave. So once we're done all that, I'm going to give away 4 T-shirts tonight. You're going to get some cool stuff. You're going to get a piece of coaxial cable autographed by Cable Guy Matt. A couple of stickers, because we got stickers now. And you're going to get some T-shirts and a poster as well. So I would love to I can't wait to give this stuff away. All right. We're going to go in 15 seconds. Thank you to Cat Chaser and Human Carl for the amazing super chats. It's a great way to support this show, along with giving us a thumbs up, thumbs down, and hit that subscribe button. Here we go. Join us. We really appreciate earning your listening ears. Hi to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America and digitally on Revolution Radio, TalkStream Live, and KPNL. Remember, all of our archives are free. All you got to do is go to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club, Rabdology. Rabdology is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. We continue on with the Bledsoe phenomena tonight. We know Mr. Bledsoe is listening because his son Ryan Bledsoe is our guest tonight. So hello, Chris and family. I hope you're enjoying tonight's show. Ryan, welcome back.
Thank you, Dave.
All right, the lady. This is an important part of the story. This is where it gets a little deep, and this is where a lot of people feel your story is a little bit controversial. Before we get into that entire part of it, explain to our listeners who may not know who the lady is, whom you're talking about.
Okay. I'm going to kind of slow down a little bit and really try to just dig in here. I don't want to really gloss over too much. So, for the listener who's not familiar with us, when he saw these beings in 2007, they told him, they work for creation, and that they tend to life like a terrarium, and they're guiding us. They're our guardians. They protect us from, evil spiritual forces and things of that nature. And as time went on between 2007 to 2012, we continued to have experiences, but they were more so just sightings. We would see, little poltergeist type things in the house. We would see UFOs in the sky. We would see faint apparitions in the home. But then it really ramped up in Easter of 2012. My dad was laying in bed one night, and he's told the story 1,000 times, and I've heard it so many times, I get this small detail mixed up. But I think it was about 3 a.m., somewhere, deep in the night. He's laying in bed, and he hears a voice that says, "Arise." And he gets up, gets dressed, goes outside in the backyard, and there's 3 beings. There's 3 beings, like the 7 to 8 foot tall ones that he saw originally, the ones with the missing time and all that good stuff. And they walk him through the woods in our backyard property, and they hand him this little thing. Now, I'm going to say what this thing is, because for some weird reason, everybody's obsessed with that detail. Like, what is this thing? It's like a little tribble from Star Trek or whatever. I don't know. I never watched Star Trek. But they hand him this thing, and it's like a little... no legs, no arms, no head, but it's like a Chihuahua puppy-sized torso that's prickly. That's how my dad describes it in person. It's like a little body of a chihuahua, no legs, no head, no whatever. And he's holding it. He's given it by these beings, and they say, this is your burden. Keep it. Don't lose it. So he's walking through the woods, and as he's touching this little thing, it's pricking him. It's like hurting him. And, he's like, oh, man, this doesn't feel good. And he keeps taking his hands off of it, and it keeps gnashing at him. So he walks through the woods, and he goes to put it in a dog kennel in our yard. We had these big dog kennels for hunting dogs. We're in the deep south. So a lot of woods, a lot of hunting dogs, whatever. So he puts it in one of their kennels, and he feels like a rush of wind, and when he turns around, there's a bull, but it's ethereal, so to speak. It's more like a ghost or an apparition. And the bull runs through my dad, knocks him over, and he lays on his back, and then like a second later, he rolls over, gets on his knees, he stands up, and there's a lady, a glowing lady. Oh, by the way, I don't think I said this. Those other beings are gone. They handed him the thing, and they disappeared, right? So there's a lady sitting there, floating there above the ground. She has blonde hair, blue eyes, very pale white complexion skin, and she has a white gown, as my father describes it, that twinkled like the night stars, and it goes from her neck to her feet. And she's floating there looking at him, and she said, you know why I'm here? This is your burden that you must keep. And now, of course, we're going to take it back. She's referencing the little prickly thing. Now, I'm going to stop for just a brief second because my dad never tells what that thing is. Never once, ever has he finished that little story. And it just makes me laugh because everybody on forums is like, what is it? What is it? It's like these rabbit holes. Well, the lady told him that it was symbolic of his burden with his mission to tell the story to the world. And it was pricking him because he had this burden. He had to tell his story to the world, but it hurts him when he tells it. He gets the ridicule, the backlash. People say he's lying, and he was being quiet at this point for 5 years. He wasn't speaking to the world, and it was growing, and it was gnashing at him. It's like he wanted to get out and tell it, but he couldn't. So he didn't actually have this little interdimensional sausage chihuahua thingy. It was like a metaphorical experience that was given to him by the lady, right? So anyway, she says, you know why I'm here? This is your burden. And she shows him some things, like she shows him sorry, I was just making sure my dad wasn't texting me. She shows him your soul. She tells him about when you die, your soul goes into these orbs, and that you go to the eternal place. Like, basically, she explains this to him. Most people don't know this, but she said a lot more to him than he actually has said on the internet. My dad just has this whole I don't know what I should or shouldn't say because, I don't know if people are gonna harm me or whatever. But I think people want to hear it, and it's really interesting. So she tells him that there's an eternal realm. It's like a spiritual place. She didn't say heaven or hell. She just said the eternal place, and that when you die, your spirit goes into an orb, and you become like them. You're free. That this reality is an illusion, and that it's perilous. You come here, and it's a journey of the soul, and that we all have a choice to make in the near future because this cycle is approaching the next point. Or I should say we're approaching the next point, the next cycle, the age of Aquarius. She said that when the red star Regulus aligns with the head of the Sphinx before dawn in the constellation Leo, that we would enter a new knowledge, or that our consciousness would change, things would be revealed. So she said some other things. I don't know what my dad would be comfortable with me saying. Things like, your ancestors are always around you. Their spirits never leave you. That there are very bad people in power that are making the book of Revelations play out like a script in order to force a cataclysmic end-time event, but that it's up to us to stop it by choosing. This is what the lady told my dad. She said there's two forces fundamentally. There's love and there's fear. And that right now we are in the fear polarity, so to speak, so that the whole world is in chaos. Everything's out of order. There's just total disharmony in all of nature and life in general. And that's because we're being fed and programmed to live in constant fear and anxiety. Everyone is divided. They all want to, hate everyone else and just be at war with their neighbor pretty much. And the way to stop it is to switch to the love polarity, the truth, the revelation that there are spiritual beings, that they are guiding us, and that it's up to us to choose them to enter our lives and help us, because we have the free will. They're not just going to come intervene without our permission. People say, well, why your dad? Well, remember what I said. He was out there saying, God, either kill me or heal me. He asked for this intervention. So it's about belief. This is how the lady made my dad understand these beings and what they are. They interact with, they won't mess with your free will. And that basically it's up to us to choose to shift back to that love polarity, or, we could be doomed, and that the earth doesn't like being out of balance.
You know what I find a little ironic here is on December 13th, 2011, when I channeled the Angel of Death. That's what got me started on this. I wasn't supposed to see him in my mother's eyes, yet I did. Okay, 2 hours later, I actually channeled this being. And what kind of made me bring up this story, not trying to take away from yours, is the fact that when you said the lady didn't mention heaven or hell, the Angel of Death told me through channeling that my mother, who is a 2-time cancer survivor, was not feeling well. And if we did not start treating her better as a family, he was going to take her home. And what I always remember about that conversation was him saying, I'm going to take her home. And he never once mentioned heaven or hell either. So that actually gives me a lot of confirmation on what you're going through with the lady. So a lot of people ask what she looks like. Okay, you described it a little bit. Does she look young? Right. Does she look elderly? Can you describe her a little bit?
Yeah, she looks young. She looks, my dad describes her as the most beautiful woman that has ever existed, that when you see her, it vibrates into your soul, pure beauty and love. And I want to quickly say, just feel free to rope me back in at any time. I kind of have the racing thoughts thing. So if I'm rambling, just kind of nudge me and bring me back in.
I think I got control of it. Don't worry.
Okay. Yeah. I know I ramble a little bit like my dad, but so he describes her as being young and just full of joy and beauty, but sadness, weeping at our destruction. We're destroying ourselves. So, yeah, that's about all I could really describe her physically. I mean, she had the gown that twinkled like the stars and everything.
Okay, so this lady who gave your dad this object, okay, and how did that change what your dad is going through? Because there's so many stories about your dad now that he has the ability to heal people, that create miracles, premonitions, and I've heard some of the stories off the record that I will not share because people have asked me, look, I don't want this out in public, or I don't want my name. This was a very private, emotional thing for me. Did she give your dad that ability to all of a sudden have all of these premonitions and healing abilities?
I think it was since before her. I don't look at the lady and the other beings as different experiences. Okay. It's one and the same, Like when my dad met the lady, he was brought to her by the guardian beings. They took my dad to her, and they pulled off their cloaks, and they were made of pure light. And my dad was made to understand that they were angels. They were angelic. They're not physical. That they appeared that way so that he could make the association of UFOs and angels. So when my dad had the original experience back in 2007, he was remote viewing as early as 2008. When MUFON was around, he had never heard the word remote viewing, and he was remote viewing them. Freaked him out so bad, they sent us an Army intelligence manual on remote viewing in the mail. They tried to recruit him to be like a civilian contractor for Army intelligence. He's always had these abilities. We kind of learned about them as he did them, if that makes sense. It's not like he looked them up and practiced. It was like, oh shoot, I just saw somebody across the world. What is this? And then we're educated on it by these intelligence people. So the healing ability came for sure after his contact with the lady, and it was actually after Grant Cameron was at our house with the dog and everything, and his neck being cut. And my dad put his hand on the dog, her cut was healed, and then he said, and in his mind, he's like, I think these beings want me to help people. So my dad will never say he has healing abilities. He says it's the beings working through him.
I want to ask you one because I don't know if this is true.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I've heard it from a number of people. However, I'm going to ask you.
Okay.
There is a rumor out there that your father has been either contacted by the Vatican or been watched by the Vatican regarding the healing abilities. Is that true or not? Or are you allowed to talk about that?
What's your definition of contacted by the Vatican? Because the Pope didn't get my dad on the phone. Was my dad in contact with people at the Vatican, papal priests? He was in contact with Diana Pasolka, who was at the Vatican in the secret archives praying about my father for his rheumatoid arthritis with papal Jesuit priests. I mean, it just depends on your definition. Yes, he was speaking with people associated with the Vatican. He didn't talk to the Pope. Dr. Diana Pasolka took a photo of my father and placed it permanently between the manuscripts of Galileo and Copernicus in the secret archives. She also put a photo of my father in a photo of the Pope so that these papal priests could pray for my father's healing. So he wasn't like on the phone with the Jesuits or anything, but yes, they were communicating back and forth about his healing and this orb experience. And then Dr. Diana Pasolka made my dad understand that St. Francis of Assisi was having the same experiences as my father, and that the true stigmata was my dad's symptoms, being, your limbs being crippled through contact with these beings. That's what RA, they basically said that St. Francis was like my dad with rheumatoid arthritis. So, yeah, the whole Vatican stuff is real. That's not a rumor. It's true. He just didn't talk to the Pope.
No, but I also heard that they were very well knowing about the healings your dad and had interest in the healings your dad had been doing.
Yes. That's true. And as well as, I'm having some weird deja vu right now, by the way. Like I've seen this in a dream. But so to shift a little bit from the Vatican, do you remember you asked me the question about Tyler and like making some money off my dad?
Yes.
That was off my dad's healing abilities. So my dad, basically, Tyler sent a photo to my dad through email, and it was a flower. It was like a sunflower or something. I don't remember. It's been about 8 years, 7 years. And he said, pay attention to how you feel. If you notice anything, if you think anything, if you remember anything, whatever, just pay attention, write it down. And my dad goes to sleep that night, and he has a dream. And he wakes up, and he remembers his dream, and he draws it. And it's a diagram of some complex cellular interaction. I don't understand it. I mean, I'm not in biology and whatnot, but he drew a diagram, right? He sends it to Tyler over email the next day, and Tyler's like, thanks, that's what I needed. Turns out they had some secret laboratory in Africa where they were working on like cutting-edge stem cell research to heal bone cancer in people. So my dad's dream and the diagram he drew was the breakthrough that they were pondering for months in this remote laboratory. And it caused them to have, I mean, they healed a little girl of bone cancer for sure. My dad met her and everything. So that healing stuff is true. It's just my dad he's such a humble man. He don't like to talk about it, but.
Well, the minute you start talking about it and it goes public, then you have to worry about all of these people, running your name through the mud again.
Yeah, but that's going to happen regardless.
Okay, so back to the lady. And how often has she appeared, and why is it so special for her to appear?
Because she's more like a goddess. She's more like okay, so Jim Sammy Van put it to me this way. She is on the top of the chain, so to speak, as far as levels of manifestation. Whereas you and I, we're somewhere closer to the lower middle, right? So the lady would be like all the way up the chain until you get to, the God of the universe, this non-local energetic consciousness field. The lady's right up there as some sort of very high-powered manifestation. So they understand that she is so powerful that she could do pretty much anything without any sort of limitations or boundaries within our universe. And it was told to me that they know that these beings could even destroy planets with their thoughts or create them with their thoughts if they wanted to. That was told to me by people in intelligence groups. So they are presently aware that these beings are real. Anyway, so back to your question.
What's her name?
Go ahead.
Do you know her name?
I don't know if a name was put in my father's head, but I don't feel that it's my place to share.
I'm more than fair with that.
I will say, let me just put it this way, because I believe I like a good mystery. She showed my dad the pyramids. What country are the pyramids in? Egypt. She showed him the Sphinx. Country is the Sphinx in? Egypt. There's only a couple Egyptian goddesses that you could probably bounce around in your head and come to a conclusion with a lady that appears a bull. I just feel like it's not my place to say it.
That makes sense. Okay, so I'm not going to press you on that anymore on what she is, but when we talk about the lady and you talk about no heaven, no hell, does this mean that what we've been taught growing up, the majority of us, is actually incorrect information?
Well, okay, she didn't say necessarily that there is no heaven or no hell. She just didn't mention it. Okay. But I'm going to go back to the second part of that question and say I 100% believe that what we've been taught is wrong. I think it's intentional. I think that, maybe this is a topic for another radio show, but I think I'm going to edge into it a little bit. There has always been, since recorded history, somebody somewhere on this planet calling the shots. That's about as far as I'll go into that topic. And those people who call those shots have always just loved to give us their version of religion. And I believe that's why the lady is here, is to save us from being so misguided and lied to after all these millennia, and to set the record straight. So for example, Jesus, he was a Hebrew, Jew, whatever the technical term is. And the Catholic Church said that you couldn't worship the guy without being killed up until 300 some years after he died. Yet that was where we got our Bible from. So right then that should raise red flags about, the origins of the story and, everything. I think that all public religions have been altered to program us, and I think that the lady's here to share the complete version of the story, the Father, the Mother, and the Son. Not the Father, the Holy Spirit, and the Son, but the Father, the Mother, and the Son.
That makes a lot of sense. A lot of sense. Have you seen her? We got about 20 seconds.
I personally have not. I've seen other beings, but not her.
Do you expect to?
I would love to. She knows where to find me.
Maybe one day she will. Ryan, I'm going to get you to hold on right there. We are going to go to break here at the bottom of the hour. Ryan Bledsoe is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio as we are talking about the entire Bledsoe phenomena. Alphabet agencies, the lady, aliens, ETs, UFOs, orbs. We're running the gamut tonight. We might even get into a little bit of Sasquatch coming up on Spaced Out Radio.
You heard the Sasquatch thing?
I may have.
We'll go into it.
Yeah.
Anything.
Yeah.
Ask any question.
Are you having fun?
Yes, I am. I feel like, with 14 years of these stories bouncing around in my head, that it's like when I try to follow one trail, I just get lost in another.
Tell me about it. It's a lonely road. And I'm not saying that out of emotion or anything, but it is a lonely road.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
for sure.
Anyways, give me 1 second here. I got to do my promo here.
Okay.
I have to tell all of you that this perfectly coiffed beard is taken care of by Mighty Moose Beard Oil by going to mightymoosebeard.com. I got a couple of bottles here. The original. Nope, that's the winter blend. This is the original. And you go to mightymoosebeard.com. You use promo code SOR 2019 and Gary the Dutchman. And if you're Dutch, you never give a deal, but Gary the Dutchman's going to give you a deal because you're going to use the promo code. All products are in Canadian dollars. Real simple to use. Just a couple dabs will do you, just like that. Right? And you just rub it on in and massage it in. Massage it in. Just rub-a-dub-dub and massage it in. And you know what? It is beard oil, but guess what? For the ladies, it also works wonders for split ends in your hair. It really does. Just rub it in. Just rub it in. Rub it in. That's it. That's it. MightyMooseBeard.com. Use promo code SOR2019 and take care of your hair properly today. All natural, by the way. Gary the Dutchman doesn't use any chemicals whatsoever. So there you go. Check it out. My beard smells great now. Fantastic. Fantastic. All right. And once again, I do want to remind all of you that at the end of the show, when we say goodnight at the end of the show, so in 90 minutes from now, I'm going to give away 4 SOR T-shirts, but you got to be in our chat room on YouTube because we just hit 10,000 subscribers at the beginning of January, and I want to make sure that all of you are taken care of and have a chance, but you got to be in the room. You can't just be watching on the sides. You got to be in the chat room. So even if you're one of the CIA or NSA dudes watching right now, all right, get your name in the chat room. I'll send you a shirt. I don't care. I'll send you a shirt if you win. So, yeah, that's the way we're going to do it. That's the way we're going to do it. Ryan, we've got 2.5 minutes.
Okay. I'm trying to catch up on some of these comments, if that's okay.
Yeah. Hi, TMI Anon, welcome. Mark Miller, welcome. JK, welcome. Don't forget, if you're new to our channel, hit that subscribe button if you don't mind. Gil, we're not starting tonight. We are not starting tonight.
Uh-oh.
Hey, Howard, thank you so much for the super chat. Appreciate that, man. Thank you so much. Really do. Between you, Cat Chaser, Human Carl, that's just wonderful. Thank you so much. Hello, Lori Rosenfeld. Welcome. Mary Bone, good to have you back. She's a vegetarian, Mary Bone, Mary Bone, Mary Bone. Yes. Oh, she's busy with housework. Don't forget to bring a towel, Mary. You never know when you're going to need a towel. Hi, HWL. Welcome to the chat room. Go ahead, Ryan.
I'll say, someone said you need a T-shirt gun.
I wish. I wish. Neil Jones, how are you?
Cool.
Yes. Actually, they're nice. They're real nice. Hey, Square Hammer, are you on the square or are you on the level? Let me know. I'd appreciate it. All right, we got about 45 seconds. BMR, welcome to our channel. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. It's good times, man. Good times.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
I do want to meet Jim Semivan one day, though. I do. I don't know why.
I want to meet you. I want to fly out to Canada and have a good time.
You should. You should. Bring you, Dad, Semivan, and Science Bob all come out. show you the weird stuff here.
Yeah, man.
We'll go looking for Sasquatch.
Yeah, I have a lot of friends in Canada. I need to take a trip.
Hold on, buddy. Here we go. We pass the halfway point of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for tuning us in. We really do appreciate it. I want to remind you that if you missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. We continue on with the Bledsoe phenomena tonight. Ryan Bledsoe is our guest, talking about all the weird things his family has been through the last 14 years. And Ryan, we were talking about the lady right in the last half hour. I kind of want to continue along those lines, if you don't mind, because the bull, I believe when we talked at UAP Research interview, you've seen the bull.
I heard the bull.
You heard the bull. Okay.
Okay. Right. I didn't see it physically, but I heard cows in my backyard. That's a whole other experience in and of itself.
Right. Okay, so take us through that event. What do you feel differently when these creatures or the bull, for instance, come around?
Yeah, well, that event was meaningful to me because at this point I was 18, so this is 5 years after the original, UFO sighting, whatever. And we continue to see things in the sky, but for me, it was usually visual things. It wasn't synchronous, deeply spiritual things happening to me. And this was my first one where it really made my head spin for years. And I'm like, challenging myself to understand things. So what happened was, I'm out in the backyard with my dad sometime at night, and we lived, in a very wooded area where there wasn't a whole lot of light pollution, and you could just really look out at the stars, And we're looking up, and we're just talking, and I'm like, Dad, I wish it was me that night that was with you. I wish Chris Jr. didn't have to have the suffering of having been there. I would have taken that. I was like, I'd give anything to have been there. He's like, well, son, you'll get your experiences. Don't think about it that way. And we're just really talking about things, and I'm like saying, I really wish that I could have a meaningful experience, and I wish they would come and see me. Just that kind of attitude, And next thing you know is I heard a cow in the yard. I just heard like a mooing of a cow. And what's important about our backyard is it was like a square or a rectangle shape, and the back parts behind our house were all fenced in, either by heavy woods or fence. So there's no way that a cow could have walked onto our yard, but there was no way that it could have been in any place outside of our yard either. It's impossible for a cow to have been there. And the next day we got in the car and we drove, within 5 to 10 miles every direction, knocking on doors, and the nearest cow farm was over 5 miles away. So back to the night before, I hear a cow and it's mooing, and I look at Dad and I'm like, do the Griffins have a cow? I thought they only had goats. He said, nope, they don't have cows. He's kind of grinning at me. He knows what's happening. And I hear another cow, and by the end of it, I basically heard 4 to 5 cows going off and at different intervals, and they're so loud that we can't hear each other speak. They're like cutting us off. It was so forceful that I had to sit there and listen to these cows. And Dad looks at me and he goes, well, you got your experience. And I was like, no, Dad, that's crazy. They wouldn't, they don't have a sense of humor like that. But basically, the moral of this story is they appeared to me in a way that was playful, but it changed my understanding of this phenomenon from believing they were aliens in spinning discs. And then they shifted my understanding to see that they were more interdimensional, that they could mess with reality itself. and that they appear in a fate sort of way. They play with your destiny. They mess with your faith. You know what I mean? It's more than just accidentally seeing a saucer in the sky. It's much more meaningful than that. And it's because of that night I came to that conclusion.
I want to get to the premonitions part, because this is one of the big things that your dad, Chris, has had happen over time here, is these incredible vivid premonitions of events around the world that are going to happen. Some not so nice, some that are, moving the planet in a positive direction. Give me your thoughts on these premonitions that Dad has.
Yeah, my thoughts are that they're real, but that they don't have to happen. Some of them he said, I've been with him when he said them for the first time and they came true. I've been somewhat of a target of my dad doing this remote viewing thing. Like, I know without a doubt that it's real. But one thing I understand through talking to these Project Stargate folks and just remote viewing people in general, that when you see future events, that there's so many different variables that could change the future. So the lady made my dad understand that these things will happen if we stay on the wrong course, that fear vibration, but that they don't have to happen if we change, and it's up to us to choose that. It's all about free will. It's all about destiny. And now our destiny is, it was written that God and love would win in the end. But ultimately we have to choose, It's just kind of like a paradox there. I don't think that they're all going to happen, but I think they're very real and that they should be taken seriously. And they are, by the people that, made Dad write these down and take them to the Pentagon.
Your dad has been studied, poked, prodded with these premonitions over and over again by not only family, friends, scientists, agencies of the United States government, and many others. What are some of these premonitions that he has had that have come true so far?
Okay. The week he saw the lady, Dad and I were in the car, and we were in Asheville, North Carolina, at a MUFON thing where he was a speaker. And he, right there on the spot, he said, "There's gonna." I don't remember the magnitude. It was a big earthquake. He said, "There's gonna be an earthquake in Baja California, September." I don't know. I don't remember the date. It's out there on the internet. Like somebody took note of what he said and recorded it, and it happened. You can look up the date, and an earthquake happened around Baja California, the date that he said it would happen. He also said there was going to be some form of storm that disrupted the 2012 elections, and then sure enough, it's Hurricane Sandy. And if you Google Hurricane Sandy elections, it's attributed to having disrupted part of the election process. There were some other more personal things that have happened that don't really deal like with the world, not necessarily like prophetic things. Most of the things he said have not happened yet. They're like way far out.
Can you give us
like
an example?
wars and
give us a couple examples of that.
Like things that are way far out?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, like disclosure. Like, ultimately he was shown that the lady told him and put this in his head that we are going to be deceived. And this is why I say this on Twitter, and I get mocked, I get harassed. But, I would advise people to be careful listening to what they hear on the internet by people that are, and I'm not talking about you, Dave, that what you do is wholesome. I'm talking about, what I'm talking about. I would advise people to be careful getting their information about UFOs from people who are paid to tell it a certain way, and then they're mocking the people like us who are just telling it with conviction. I get mocked because I say we're going to be deceived, we're going to be lied to, and that the alien agenda is meant to trick us, But it's what it is. It's what he was shown, that we would be deceived, and that the idea is going to be put in our heads by people of this world that there is no God, there's no soul, there's no spirit, there's only bad aliens. Everybody rally together, and we're going to help you be safe from them. That's one of the premonitions. And that ultimately we are going to choose whether we want to accept the truth or not, So that one's way out there. That's like kind of the final straw there. And then there's, he recently talked about this. He saw a bomb going off in New York City. He wrote that down in 2009. I was 15 years old. He hands me a black journal, and I'm reading this stuff, and that was written in there all these years ago. He saw the gold from the Dome of the Rock being melted in a conflict. He saw the nation of Jerusalem be made the capital, which that's been kind of thrown around a little bit in the last year, and just things like that, apocalyptic things, because the lady said that's what it's about, that these people in power are making the events of Revelation happen in order to force a cataclysmic event. They're like playing God, or they're playing the devil, or whatever you want to believe. And, but it was written that God and the beings of light would win. So I'm not worried about that.
One of the premonitions or stories that your father has seen was about Sasquatch on Mars.
I wouldn't call it a premonition. It's more like in the past, man. But, so he was with Tyler from the book American Cosmic, the Invisible College guy. And they're like at a hotel. They're doing some of this like research stuff or whatever. My dad flew out with him across the country multiple times to be present for many of these things. And Dad's asleep in his hotel room, obviously, next door to Tyler's hotel room. So the next morning he wakes up and he's like, dude, I had a dream. It was weird. He's like, yeah, tell me about it. And Dad said, I was on Mars and I saw that Bigfoot was there, but it was a long time ago, and that somehow or another they accidentally it wasn't an accident, but they were wiped out somehow in a cataclysm. And the shock of all the billions of deaths was so great, their souls had left and had to be gathered by the Guardians. Now, in his dream, it was the Guardians that he saw back in 2007, and then again with the lady. In his dream, he said that the shock was so great that the Guardians had to whisk their souls, collect them, fashion them a new, more primitive body with certain interdimensional capabilities, but primitive enough so that their soul could be rehabilitated back into what it once was, and brought them to Earth and let them kind of play here safely so that they could grow back to where they were. And again, this was a dream. And Tyler looked at him and he said, "You're the most informed person I've ever met." And that was it. But then you read books about Ingo Swann and all these guys remote viewing other planets. So it's weird stuff.
Something like that seems so far-fetched. Okay, that's one of the ones, and I don't mean this as insult, but that's one of the stories where a lot of people who are so nuts and bolts about this entire phenomena in the community will say, "Oh, there goes Bledsoe again off the rocker." You've heard it, you've seen it on Twitter. It's cruel. It really is.
Oh, yeah.
Yet the people that surround you take this stuff pretty seriously.
Yeah, they take it very seriously. And honestly, for the folks who are stuck on nuts and bolts phenomenology, I would say respectfully, you need to abandon your thinking and you need to adapt, because that's not the reality of everything that's going on. What I would say is going on is that nuts and bolts can be a consequence of the choices of these beings. They can manipulate our reality however they want. But, like what Grant Cameron says, I really like the way he words things. These things aren't just flying here from Jupiter and then pieces of their ship are just falling off and oh, look, their bumper just fell in my yard. Let me go grab it. It's not like that. These beings are so complex that it can't be fathomed, and they can play by our rules, but presently we cannot play by theirs. It's of no consequence to them to appear physical if it means that it would get our attention and cause us to make certain mental associations. But it's not a nuts and bolts phenomenon. I know this for a fact. I mean, just talking to these people in the Invisible College and Jim Semivan. You know what Jim Semivan told me? He said there's no such thing as supernatural phenomenon. It's as natural as you and I, but it exists at a level and frequency that we cannot sensibly detect with our present technology. But it's just as natural as you and me. They're alive like we are.
Is that part of the consciousness aspect of everything?
Oh yeah, I believe everything is consciousness. I believe reality is consciousness. It's all one.
Okay. So when Mr. Semivan tells you that there is no supernatural in regards to the entire phenomena, what is he getting at?
What he's getting at is the term supernatural is wrong because that implies almost that it's not real. What he's saying is that it is as natural as you and I. In other words, those beings that blow our minds and they're complex, complicated, whatever, they are just as natural as you and me, and that they are a part of our reality as we are a part of theirs. They're not in some we categorize them as not even being real. It's like, oh yeah, that's not real unless you show me a photo. But it's just as real as you and me. It's as real as, a plankton in the ocean. It's as real as, you know, everything else in this reality. It's not supernatural, it's natural. That's kind of the viewpoint of these guys. We are all part of this system together. They just don't necessarily play by the same rules because they made the rules.
Have these government agents, whether it's Jim Semivan or the Invisible College or whomever, been on the property when these phenomena are happening? Has it been recorded?
Recorded like with a camera?
Recorded.
Is that what you mean?
Even in person.
I will say Dr. John Alexander was with us and had a sighting, a significant sighting. Jim Semivan has been on our property and has had photos taken that, although he couldn't see anything with his eyes, later when he saw the photos, it freaked him out because there were like entity smoke and things like that. That's how we figured out what entity smoke was, because Jim saw the photos of himself and he put us onto that. There's a thing such as entity smoke, which indicates that something is manifesting. My dad has been on various trips with Tyler and has had some incredible, remote viewing type synchronistic experiences. Pretty much in some form or fashion, he's had something happen with or around all of these people. Not necessarily on our property, technically. I know that's what you asked, but somewhere, somehow, he's had an experience with all these people. That's why they still come around, many of them.
Could you say that your dad summons these beings, or are they just there? And
I think they're. Go ahead.
And will light up for anybody who they want to see, or
yeah,
go ahead.
I think people need to abandon what they understand about reality as a whole. I think that these beings are that we're swimming in them, like they are constantly around us, and that they will allow themselves to be acknowledged by the individuals who, with pure intentions and a whole, an honest, pure mindset, reach out to them. They will allow themselves to be acknowledged. It's not like, oh, let me focus my mind on them like some CE5 stuff. I'm going to pull them through a portal. It's not like that. They're the ones that hold the keys to this thing, and they pick and choose who they appear to. It's never, ever, ever an accident, ever.
Have they been, okay, let me rephrase this. Have you been around when they've shown themselves, yet other people around you cannot see them? So let's say in a group of 4 or 5 where 2 out of the 4 cannot see what's going on, or 1 of the 4.
Yes, but I don't think it's in the way that you're technically asking. So from what I understand, you're wanting to say, all 4 of us are looking in the same direction. Can 2 people see it and 2 people not? Is that what you mean?
Yes.
It doesn't happen like that. It's usually like the one who's not meant to see it, they turn around for 5 seconds to tie their shoe and everyone else saw it and then it's gone. It's never, in my experience, been all of us looking in the same place and some can see it and some can't. It doesn't just happen like that. But we do have things where we'll see flashes and whoever wasn't meant to see it, they just happen to not see it. But, it definitely happens that way.
Okay. All right. For you personally, let's focus on you here, as we got about 4.5 minutes before we got to go to break at the top of the hour. Ryan Bledsoe is our guest tonight. For you, are you starting to see the phenomena more?
Yes. Yeah, me and Dad are seeing them a lot lately. Pretty much any clear night we go out there, we'll see them. We'll have a little show. It's about the mindset and the intention. It's not a ritual. It's not a summoning. It's going out there with belief and faith that there are beings out there who are around you at all times. It's just how you approach them. It's humility. We don't own these beings. We don't control them. They bless us with appearances and miracles and things of that nature, and we always thank them.
What about the fact that if you don't call it summoning, there's a lot of people out there who believe they can summon?
They can probably summon something, but this phenomenon that we're dealing with, I don't think that they can be summoned, because that implies that you have control over them. I think that there is no amount of control that could ever be put on these beings. They're from what I understand, they're more powerful than anything that we've ever come face to face with. Any other, you couldn't point a gun at it and kill it. That's for sure.
Have you been taken?
I don't know. I have a lot of dreams that I'm driving down the road at night, and they stop me on the side of the road. But I've never been regressed about being taken. I would like to.
You got the friends who can do that.
Yeah, but we don't really just ask people. We don't expect anything. We don't bother people. We're the kind of people, like, when these intelligence guys show up at our property, we take them out and buy them coffee and stuff. We never just hold our hands out and expect things. I would never ask anybody for anything like that. I don't know. Humility.
What do you think would happen if you went under hypnosis?
I think it'd probably change my life. I'd probably have memories that I didn't expect, for sure. I mean, I don't doubt it. Like I was told by Jim Simivan and, of course, the Invisible College boys, like Tyler Durden, we were told that it travels in families. So if my dad was taken, it's like a no-brainer. It's accepted and understood by these people that we were all taken. And I don't know if you heard the story about me holding the medal. Did you hear that story, Dave?
No.
Okay, I told it on Grant Cameron's show, but basically, so Tyler Durden came to our house in late 2013, and he brought some medals, some like exotic type medals that were from off planet, and he handed us the medals, and when we held both pieces in our hand, we felt like electric currents through our arms, and he basically told us that means you have face-to-face encountered an entity if you felt this, shock through your arms. And I kind of abridged the story there, but he said he only saw that with 3 other people ever out of all the people he tested. So these people believe that our whole entire family's been taken, but my dad was the only one regressed for that. So that's a good question.
Well, once you got aliens, you always got aliens. That's the one thing that I've learned through this thing. I've had people make fun of me over that, and curse me out over that statement. But in reality, it's true. You can never shake them. They don't just show up one time and say, hey, by the way, we're done with you, and now we're just going to fly off and you're never going to see us again like a cheap one-night stand.
Yeah, for sure.
But just one of those things, my friend. One of those things.
Yeah.
We're going to get into more experiences and more questions from, we'll get our audience to ask some questions coming up in the next half hour, because normally I try to bring their questions in hour 2. But if there's a few questions from our audience and you're in one of our chat rooms, we'll ask your questions as we have Ryan Bledsoe for another 30 minutes here on Spaced Out Radio talking about the Bledsoe phenomena. It is an incredible story. It is incredibly real, and it still happens to this day. Stay tuned. Hour 3, we got Ryan, we've got the Newswire, we've got the Thought of the Dave, and then after, we'll have some fun. And we'll go like, wow, I can't believe we just heard this on Spaced Out Radio. All right, Ryan, I'm just going to run my dogs out. I'll be right back, okay?
Mm-hmm. Oh, sorry. Did I speak too early?
Nope. No, you're perfect.
Okay.
You're perfect.
I didn't know if I caught the radio.
Yeah, no, you're perfect. I'm just going to run my dogs out. I'll be right back, okay?
Okay.
Along with some stories that will blow your mind from the weird to the wacky. It's the news outside the news that piques interest, and that's what we're looking to deliver to you. The SOR Newswire, only at spacedoutradio.com.
We all know on Spaced Out Radio we love a good beard and mustache, so why not take care of your facial hair with Mighty Moose Beard Oil? Made in Canada, we're taking care of beards and stashes around the world. We use 100% natural ingredients with our oils and balms to make your whiskers feel silky smooth. Use promo code SOR2019 at MightyMooseBeard.com today.
I'm feeling a little spicy tonight. What to do? What to do?
Why not get bumblefuck?
4 million Scoville units of pure hard rock. Bumblefoot hot sauces come in 3 flavors. The burning bumble. Tone it down a bit with Bumblicious and throw the sauce on everything.
Spice it up. Bumble me, baby. Bumblefoot hot sauce. Get it today at Kajans.com.
We're adding to the entertainment online for Spaced Out Radio. I'm Amber Beckrud, and I want to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel and check out Cryptid Tales, where I will take you on a journey into some of the strangest legends and lore from around the world, relaying the stories to you of the strange creatures and experiences that people have had throughout time. You can find Cryptid Tales at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio, and while you're there, don't forget to check out our free archives and leave a comment. See you there. The SOR Vault is open for business, and we have some cool swag for you to pick up. All you have to do is head over to our website and click on the SOR Vault. You have a variety of cool logos to choose from, and put them on anything you want. T-shirts, hoodies, hats, coffee mugs, you name it, we can get it to you. So do your shopping by supporting the store you love. Get your Spaced Out Radio swag at the SOR Vault today. Take it from the top.
Go!
Hello, everyone. This is Ryan Stacey, otherwise known as Pesky. We're glad to see you on the Spaced Out Radio and investigators together, we'll investigate the strange sighting on the coast of Nevada. Looking for answers just like you. So fill out excitement and let's figure out what's going on together.
Looking for creative ways to get your company out in the public? How about advertising on Spaced Out Radio? Our sales department is waiting to hear from you, and we can work around any budget. From commercial spots to banners to special promotions, there are many opportunities to get your name and product out to our SOR listeners. For a price guide and...
Hey, Ryan, I'm back.
What's up? Dude, these comments are great, man. Is this every night?
Tonight's a little bit of a packed house.
Oh, really?
But usually the chat room is moving just like this.
This is awesome.
Hey, Gary Voorhees from the Nimitz incident.
Yeah?
He'd like you to DM him on Twitter.
Done. You know what's weird, dude, is I assume he's listening right now. So,
Yes.
Gary, this is to you, brother. Earlier I was scrolling on my Twitter, and I saw somebody shared a tweet of his. And please don't be offended, Gary, because with me being like a subject in ufology, I try not to cloud my mind and look up who everybody is. And I didn't quite know who he was. And I kept seeing him being shared, and I'm like, who is this guy? And I put the dots together. How weird is that he's listening tonight?
Yeah. He's got a good beard, too. Solid beard.
He does. Yeah, he does.
It was a great picture of him and Sean Cahill on Twitter the other day.
I saw it. That's what got me. Like, who is this guy? And I started looking into him. And
Gary's
that's
great
just
people.
weird. That's a synchronicity right there. I'll definitely DM him.
Yeah, Gary's good people. Okay, we got to ask you this question because we ask everybody this, Ryan, who's on the show. What's your opinion of eating breakfast foods for dinner?
Oh, just the other night I asked my wife for waffles and she said no. But yes,
Perfect.
Yeah, we had to make something else, but I love it.
Oh, Ryan, so much better than that. And when it comes to Devil's Tower in Wyoming, all right, remember Close Encounters of the Third Kind, the big rock?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you on? Do you believe it's a rock or do you believe it's a tree stump?
I honestly watched that movie like when I was a little kid, and I don't remember it that well.
All right. We'll let you slip out of that one. Hello, Elaine Clifford. How are you? And, yep. Okay, the questions are coming in, and I'll try and get to as many as we can. We got under a minute to go. Big thank you to Howard, Cat Chaser, and Human Carl for the amazing super chats in supporting this show. Thank you to everybody who's given us a thumbs up or down. Want to remind you that if you stick with us right to the end of the show, because we hit 10,000 subscribers on YouTube, I'm going to give away 4 T-shirts tonight. 4 T-shirts. So you make sure that you stick around because we're going to have some fun with this coming on up and kind of go from there. I don't know what I'm going to do to choose people yet. I'll leave that up to me. Maybe Cord's the booking guy and his mustache, but we'll make sure it happens. And we got Ryan for another 30 minutes here, everyone. So sit tight. We're going to be live here in about 5 seconds. Thank you so much for tuning us in. My name is Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters, welcoming you to tonight's show, especially if you're listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on KPNL, Revolution Radio, and TalkStream Live. Remember, you can check out all of our archives for free by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Rabdology. Rabdology is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. For the final time tonight, we bring in the Bledsoe phenomena. Ryan Bledsoe is here. He is the son of Chris Bledsoe. We've been talking about this amazing story all night long. Ryan, welcome back.
Hi.
Hi. Good to have you here.
Good to be back.
All right. You know what? I was going to ask more questions, because I have a bunch, but I want to get the audience in here too, because this is a rarity for them to be able to ask you some questions here. So if you don't mind, I'd like to pass them on. We'll start off with Rolla100, who is asking, did the lady predict any near future events you can speak of?
I mean, it was more so like endgame kind of stuff. You know what I mean? I'd have to ask my dad on that one, but from what he's told me, it's like basically events leading up to the finale of the endgame of Disclosure. It was more so like, some earthquakes here, some wars there, some bombs, but I mean, I can't say if it's near future. She doesn't give dates on these things. So that's kind of a hard one to answer.
All right, let's move on. Marty is asking, is Chris feeling positive about the future? Will humanity choose to love over fear?
Well, as I said earlier, the lady told my father it was written that in the end we would win, that the good would win, and that light and love and all that. So, yeah, I mean, he feels positive about the end game. He's worried about the next several years leading up to that end game for sure, as we all should. If any of this stuff has a shred of honesty to it, it's going to get darkest before the dawn, right?
Gotcha. Okay. Sovereign is asking, are the reptilians biting your tongue on things you cannot say?
I don't believe in reptilians. I'm not saying that definitively they're not real. I'm sure, he's making a joke, but I think they're disinformation, man.
All right. HWL is asking, explain more about the fear problem and how we change that to stop what's possibly coming.
Okay. Wow, that's a hard answer. So let's put it this way. From the moment you're born, you're told, I feel like that's not a short answer, Basically, okay, there's two fundamental polarities it's just a basic law of reality. Everything is polarized. It's hot, cold, light, dark. That's kind of a scientific way to look at it. And as far as the spectrum of spiritual vibration goes, it was put in my dad's head to understand that there's love and there's fear, and that when you vibrate with joy and happiness and positivity, you're on the love side of things, like the lady and her her celestial guardians and whatnot. And then when you are on the negative side of being, you are in the fear, which is kind of like, Yoda says it best. Fear leads to anger, anger leads to hatred, hatred leads to the dark side. That's kind of like some deep stuff George Lucas was dropping. But, the problem is right now we are in disharmony because the majority of the world is in that fear modality. Every day the news is telling us, life sucks, life sucks, life sucks, so much to the point where we believe it. And Earth, as the lady told my father, is a living being that is affected by our, so to speak, resonance. So the point is, we don't want to be in this fear resonance because Earth might just shake us off, in a polite way to put it. Might literally and physically shake us off to get rid of that fear. That's one of the things that the lady showed my father. So that doesn't have to happen if we switch back to the love.
All right. Kim is asking, what religious text was on the craft? You've mentioned this before. Was it Gnostic?
Book of Genesis. I ended up saying it on Twitter.
Very interesting. So what happened there so people understand?
Okay, this is getting into muddy waters here, but I guess I said it, so I stuck my own foot in my mouth. But, basically we were told, listen, I'm just going to say it like this. People ask, why do you interpret that it's spiritual this, spiritual that? Well, for one, the beings are telling us that it is. And then two, these invisible college people are also telling us that it is. For example, what we were just alluding to, we were told that one of the crafts that was crashed on purpose as a gift, so to speak, because they don't crash by accident. If you think that they crashed by accident, you need to change your thinking. Yeah, respectfully, I say that. But it was crashed as a gift, and it had the Book of Genesis on board. That was on board for these beings to show us, our government people, whatever, who's in the know, that they have been guiding us consciously through all of mankind. That these lessons, spiritual lessons, started from them, and it's going to end with them. It's always been with them and about them, these beings.
All right, let's move on here. The guys from UFO Garage, Joe and Ben, good people, very good people. They're asking, have you heard of any connection with the Egyptian goddess Hathor, goddess of the sky, often depicted on pillars having ears of a cow?
I have. Hi, Joe and Ben. I have heard of Hathor, and she also is depicted as a bull, as was the lady's animal of choice when she appeared to my father, Egyptian deity of the sky. So I have heard of her. I'm very aware of her and what she represents and how she's depicted.
All right. Greco in Toronto is asking, how do beings have the same religion as humans?
I don't think beings have a religion. I think that the problem is we have a religion, and I think that there is a fundamental objective truth that we currently do not have because we're being so misguided by our current control system that's why the beings are showing up, is they're trying to nudge us back to the true reality outside of our oppressive religion and religions, and the dogma of scientism. Not science, but scientism. It has become a religion. It's the religion of the elites.
All right, ABC-CBA is asking, I don't know if that's Alphabet Collective Bargaining Agreement. I don't know what that stands for. But
Uh-oh.
Can you ask Ryan if they researched the jinn realm as described in ancient Arabian cultures? Many of the Bledsoe experiences seem similar.
I'm just going to put it like this because this was told to me by some of these people, and like the Invisible College and stuff, that, you know, when you have a djinn on your shoulder giving you knowledge, what word was born from that? Genius. You know, and it was basically made for us to understand that these super geniuses like Tyler and many others who are anonymous, they have those jinns on their shoulders, or those genies, and it's giving them these downloads. And that's how they're getting these breakthroughs. These super advancements in you know, human consciousness and technology, they come from these beings. So the answer is yes. We have been made aware that they are studying all of the different cultural depictions of what these beings are.
All right, let's move on here. And let's go to, let's pick a question here. Big Creep is asking, if your father would take any questions. No, we're not getting Chris on the live stream, and he lives on in a different house. So I'm reading these cold, so I apologize.
Oh, it's okay.
Something
It's all right.
slipped through here. All right, let's go here. Marty is asking, is your dad feeling positive about the future?
I think we already had a variation of that.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's okay. We'll get to another one here. This is where my bad hosting comes in. Bad hosting.
No.
All right, moving on here. HWL, is there an alien machine-like presence trying to take over the Earth?
Machine like a Borg? Like a hive mind?
Could be.
I think there's a human hive-like presence. Yeah, I've kind of hinted at that, and that's about as far as I'll go on that. I'm not here to talk about these control groups. I'm here to talk about what I know, what's the orbs.
Yes.
Sometimes they overlap, but you can go to different various, you know, corners of the internet, and you can find out all you want to know about the human control mechanisms.
All right. Rolo is asking, according to your father, how far off is disclosure? Will it be in our lifetime?
I think it will be for sure in our lifetime. I think we just entered the Aquarian age, or we're shifting into it with the whole conjunction on the 21st of December. And I believe that now, you know, through these tumultuous events that are happening in our daily life now, it's going to be like that all the way up until it's not like that anymore when the apocalypse happens, which apocalypse is a Greek word which means to reveal that which is hidden. So I think that is what disclosure truly is, and that people need to be adaptable and modify their understanding of what this means, what disclosure means. Because truly, when disclosure happens, it's going to change the world. It's going to change everything and everybody. It's the apocalypse.
I tend to think it's still years off.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I really do. And the reason why, and I've said it on the show, and agree or disagree with me, that's quite okay. But I really believe that they are preparing the younger generations, because the 35 and under crowd, which you're a part of,
right,
is following their own lines of spirituality. They're moving away from the church, the organized religions, which the 35 and older crowd is still very much a part of, and still has a very strong testament and belief to the religious dogma that goes along with that. However, if I look at my own children, or I look at kids around my kids' age, or yourself, or whatever, you're more open-minded to the certain and other concepts of spirituality out there, and more accepting of other types of possibilities that we are not alone in the universe. Whereas the older crowd is all about, those are demons sent by the devil himself coming on down. So that's why I think we're still 20, 30 years away, and I could be wrong, but I still think we're 20, 30 years away, because we need to lose some population, if you know what I'm saying.
Right. And I just want to say I appreciate your perspective, and we could be wrong too. You know, you might be right. Where I'm coming from is my father was not given a date, you know. He was given the whole alignment with the Sphinx and everything. And when he gave that to our deceased friend Al Povenmire, he ran it through a NASA simulation, and he came out with the 2026 date. He could have been wrong in his calculation. The lady never gave my father a date for disclosure. So I'm going off of this NASA dude simulation. It could be 20, 30 years out. I don't know. I tend to think it'll be sooner.
You think so? Well, you never know.
I think there's two disclosures, Dave. There's going to be the false one from mankind, and then there's going to be the true one from the beings. And it's going to be up to us which one we believe and which one we follow. And it's basically all I'll say about that is, choose carefully.
Well, we're going to find out. That's for sure. One way or another, we will find out. Mary is asking, do these beings return if you have met them before? Do they continually teach you?
Yes. Yes, they never leave you. And they know this in the CIA. There's studies about this. They tend to run with families. Like if the dad's seeing it, the kids are too. If the little daughter's seeing it, the grandma's probably seeing it. Everybody in the family seems to be touched by the same phenomenon, and it's a lifelong repeating thing. So, yes, the answer is yes.
All right, let's go over to our Spreaker chat room where Chuck is asking, Ryan, can you please explain more about the Trinity of creation and how it relates to the lady?
Sure. That is a very simple question with a very deep answer. It depends how far you want to go into it. Where I'm coming from is that there are fundamental objective truths about reality, what is the animating force behind reality. We're lied to by these scientism priests that, you're a fool and you should be mocked if you don't believe anything outside of the material world. That's just part of the control mechanism. In the same vein that, if you believe anything outside of the church, you should also be mocked and you're a sinner. It's two sides of the same coin, right? So there are animating forces behind reality, so much so that on a spiritual, esoteric level, there are male and female forces that create forms, platonic solids, archetypal forces within nature. These forms can manifest as deities or beings. Now, the lady is the hidden feminine force of creation. She's, so to speak, the manifestation of that feminine force. And the masculine force would be more like the collective, energy, whatever God truly is. Maybe he has a different manifestation that we haven't discovered yet, or maybe we haven't talked about seeing him yet. But, she is a hidden part of creation. We were told there's just one creator God, and that's it. For thousands of years. That's what's in the Bible. That's what was given to us by the Roman Catholics, the same people who were, killing Jesus. They took his religion and then they rebranded it, right? Remember the question earlier about, do I believe it's control? So I believe in reality. When a man and a woman, they get together, they do their thing, they have a baby, right? That's the exoteric representation of creation. And then on the spiritual occult level, there's these deities that animate reality in the same way, but in a non-physical form, right? That's it would take a little bit longer for me to go deeper into it, but that's the nutshell of what I believe these beings do.
All right, let's move on here as we continue on with our audience questions. And let's see, where can we go here? Scroll right down to the bottom. Greco is asking, why don't these beings just tell everybody at once? Do they have the ability to suppress fear and open minds?
Well, let me counter that question with this question. If they just controlled the world, changed their emotions, and made them not afraid, all of a sudden they just interfered with billions of people's free will, and they're not so good anymore. That's what it's all about. It's about our free will. And it's our destiny to choose what we want to believe and what our fate is. It's about free will. They're not going to interfere with everybody's free will like that. Otherwise, they're not so good.
We've got about 4.5 minutes left with you tonight. Ryan Bledsoe is our guest. We're taking some audience questions. This one comes from Gorgeous Larry, and literally, he's apparently gorgeous.
He's probably drop dead gorgeous.
He says, from a skeptical point of view, have you or your family ever been diagnosed with any type of mental health disorders?
Well, I was being treated for ADHD, and then it was later brought to my attention that it may be along the form of OCD. But my mom has OCD for sure. But, you know, that's kind of something that I don't really like to discuss that.
That's
know?
personal.
Let me, it is personal. It's very personal. Let me put it this way. When MUFON came on the scene, they did comprehensive psychological evaluations of my father. They determined that he had anxiety, and that, you know, they used that anxiety to basically get him to break on the lie detector test. You know, but I kind of feel like that is a personal thing to ask.
Well, I think the big reasoning for that question is because there are a lot of people out there who are going to look at you guys and have looked at you guys saying, "Oh, this is the crazy family." You know what I'm saying? And I think it goes beyond just, you know, anxiety, depression, ADHD, or anything like that. Lord knows I got all three, and I'm pretty open about it. You know, but for some,
yeah.
it is a difficult topic nonetheless. But I mean, I think the realm of questioning is more along the lines of for the skeptical people who out there who do not believe what you're going through. You know, have you been medically cleared? That it's nothing against insulting you or the family. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. There's some details I'm not going to go into here, but I will say, because you got to remember, there's 5 people in my family that I'm not going to speak on their behalf.
No, and you
know,
and you shouldn't have to.
But you know, we were cleared many years ago.
That's all we need.
You know,
all we need. One final question, because we only got about 90 seconds. Ivy is asking, you mentioned the ones who control this world will try to preach their own religion. What religion is the lady or this phenomena trying to teach us?
I don't think they're trying to teach us a religion. I think that they are trying to lead us away from these mainstream religions and teach us the truth, which is that, you know, there really are angelic beings and forces out there. There really is a God, and it's real. It's not so much like, which way do you want to talk about it? Do you want to be Catholic? Do you want to be Buddhist? It's not like that in my mind. It's about, what is the truth? Is it real? You know, I don't care so much about doctrine at this point. It's about, is there a God? Are there real energies? You know, if I call on the name of Jesus, does it really help people? Yes. When my dad does, people are healed of their cancers. So as far as I'm concerned, you know, maybe there's other names out there that have the same effect. I don't know. I haven't tried them. But I don't think it's about religion, you know. I think it's about truth and they're actually real or not.
All right. My friend, we've got about 30 seconds left, and I want to say it's a pleasure to be the first one to interview you twice. I could say that. And I had a lot of fun with you tonight. I know our audience did as well, and you're a good human being, and I think your answers were very, very honest, and I appreciate your honesty and candid nature with our listeners here on Spaced Out Radio.
Yeah, I appreciate it. You know, anytime, you know, going forward, anytime I'll be there if you need me.
I want to do the show with you and your dad.
Oh, that'd be great.
I think that would be a lot of fun doing that with you and Senior Bledsoe there, and you know, we hell, let's just line it up. We'll just do it.
Well, he's listening right now, so I'm sure he heard you.
Exactly.
So,
Ryan, thank you so much. Coming up next, we have the SOR Newswire, and we have the Thought of the Day. Stay tuned. Spaced Out Radio continues right after this. Good job, bud.
Thank you.
We'll give you a few claps. Rock and roll, man. Rock and roll. That was fun. You know, went by quick. Went by really, really quick. You know, you get to go to bed.
Yeah.
You know? I appreciate you, man. I really do. I really do appreciate you and your family, and I think every time I listen, I get a little bit more information out of it. That's kind of cool. That's very cool. So thank you for taking the audience questions. Thank you for everything that you do, and we'll stay in touch, bud.
Yeah, for sure. I guess I go ahead and sign off now.
Yeah, we're going to hang up on you here, and like I said, you get to go cuddle into bed. By the way, just so you know, it's only 5 degrees here right now. And it's,
oh, my God.
Yeah. It's
like 50 here.
minus 15 Celsius for those translating. Yeah.
Jesus. Well, you have a good rest of your night. Thank you so much, Dave.
You too, brother. You take care, okay?
Right. Talk to you soon. You too.
Bye.
Bye.
Such a nice family. Honestly, I've had the pleasure of meeting Mr. and Mrs. Bledsoe earlier this year, last year, in San Francisco at UFOCon, and they were just incredible people, and getting to know Ryan a little bit here, I think he's a real honest figure for the family. I mean, we got to realize this family is gaining nothing from this. They could use the money, but they're not doing it for the money. You know? I mean, look at Tyler right there. All right? You look at Tyler. Tyler is a very, very wealthy man because of things that he was told by Chris Bledsoe. If anything is shameful, it's the fact that Tyler didn't say, you know what, you help me out. Let me pay off your mortgage. Let me buy you a new vehicle. Let me get you some money in the bank. You know what I'm saying? And I know others in the community are a little pissed off at that. But the Bledsoes are too kind, too nice to worry about things that you and I would worry about. They're just good, wholesome, quality people. That is for sure. Good, wholesome, quality people. And I've watched people praise them. I've watched people burn them on social media. These are the type of people who don't deserve it. Yes, their story is extraordinary. Yes, we need a proper documentary about it or a proper movie or television show. It's phenomenal. You know? I know there is a list of people whom they, from university professors to government agents. List is probably about this yay long here, okay? Of people who are studying this family. These people don't study charlatans. They don't have time to study fakers, liars, people making up stories about cows and floating ladies. It's not the way it works. Hi, HWL. Thank you for the compliment. I paid a lot of money for this voice. I really did. Broadcasting school cost me a lot of money. But getting back to the original point, as we got about 90 seconds here, these government agencies do not have time for BS. They really don't. It's great that we're skeptical. Okay? Give me 1 second here. It's great to be skeptical, but it's another thing to not look at the other facts of it all. So that's why I'm a believer in the Bledsoes. They've never given me any inkling in the number of times I've talked to them that they are not the real deal. I like them. And I would love to do a show with both Chris and Ryan in a few months. Now, I'm sure somebody else will try and hop on that bandwagon, steal our idea. Why not? As long as the message comes through from proper people. I'll get to that after the show, HWL. I'll get to that after the show. All right, here we go, guys. Grounded third. We're heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate it. I want to remind you that if you've missed most of this show or others, you can check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. Speaking of the news, let's do this thing, shall we? Is always changing, which is why we bring you the SOR Newswire at the back end of every show, where we get to the weird, the strange, the wacky, and sometimes the down. You know why I'm down today? Because even though I'm Canadian, even though I'm a major hockey guy, I'm saddened by the passing of Hank Aaron. He was a major figure in not only baseball, but the sports world in general. Held one of the most incredible records ever that personally I still think stands. And it was no surprise that when he passed away, it affected many. Aaron died at the age of 86, according to his daughter, as word got out, and people started reacting from all over the sports world, wishing him well on his next journey to the next big baseball diamond in the sky. Now, he leaves behind his family, of course, but you know what? I got to say this. Baseball did him wrong at the end. They should have never allowed the steroid era to take over his record, namely Barry Bonds. Ever. Should not have happened. Barry Bonds, to me, is not the home run king. It is still Hank Aaron. Same as Mark McGwire. Hank Aaron was a natural beauty of America's pastime. He was a 25-time All-Star. He was an MVP, 3-time Gold Glove winner, and guess what? No steroids. 715 home runs, past Babe Ruth. Finished with 755. He is still, in my books, the greatest home run hitter ever. And we need to be able to recognize that. Baseball wronged him, completely wronged him due to the steroid era. I think that's disgusting. Let's go Yankees. Just around the corner, pitchers and catchers. You know, this has to be one of the most emotionally cute stories that I've read in a long time. You know, we don't deserve dogs. We really don't. They're loyal. They're happy. If we're feeling down, the dog will always, always cheer us up. You know, so in northeastern Turkey, a gentleman named Samal Senturk was put into hospital for 6 days until he was discharged. But what his dog did was what made national headlines. His dog, after Mr. Senturk was transferred by ambulance to a hospital, Bonkuk, the dog, escaped from their apartment and followed him to the facility, where she waited patiently each and every day. Hospital staff informed Senturk's family about the whereabouts of the dog, but after Bonkuk was brought back home, she managed to escape again and returned back to the hospital looking for her owner. She loves him that much. The hospital said Senturk's apartment was nearby and that the family were not sure how the dog kept escaping. His dog, Bonkuk, had followed him to the hospital and literally 6 days, every day there, waiting for his owner to come out. Even though the family took the dog back home, she still escaped. That is loyalty and best friendship. But his dedicated four-legged dog and friend refused to leave the hospital. Keeps staking out, waiting for her owner to come out. Finally, he did. When he was all cleared to leave the hospital, he was met at the door by his puppy, Bonkook. How awesome is that? It's a beautiful video. Go on YouTube or go on social media to find that. It is the cutest thing. We could all wish that much love from anybody or any animal into our lives. Let's head over to British Columbia here, where I am. Value Village employees often find sums of long-forgotten money tucked into donated jackets and purses. But store manager Jeffrey Stonehouse found a sum of $85,000. He goes, I have the exact amount here, $85,549. That is certainly the largest sum we've ever found. Stonehouse has worked with Value Village for 15 years, managing the Hastings Street store in Vancouver and processing depot on Venables Avenue. On Monday, he and a coworker were going through recently donated items when his coworker opened a yellow plastic bag to reveal a big bank deposit books and stacks of envelopes. When she ripped open an envelope and leaned over to show me, it was full of money. A wad of money. The pair opened more envelopes and found more money and more. We were a little confused, he says, about what we were looking at. The first thought was, that goes through your mind, is this legal? Is it counterfeit? And then, is it from an ethical source? Stonehouse said the pair immediately reported and cataloged the money as store protocol requires. The pair also went through the rest of the bag and found bank receipts that showed the name of a possible owner. In total, over $85,000 in Canadian bills, the most recent of which was printed in 1988, said Stonehouse. Other documents found inside the money bag seem to indicate the owner may not have seen the money in about a decade or so. Sergeant Steve Addison of Vancouver Police received a call from Stonehouse on January 18th asking for help with the money. Officers were dispatched to collect it and the bank receipts and have since then been able to locate and confirm the identity of the owner. Addison said it appeared the owner is a woman who had moved into a long-term care home almost a year ago, but that the money was unknowingly donated by well-meaning family members who had recently cleared out the woman's storage unit. We didn't solve a crime, the police say, but we helped facilitate a happy ending to the story. That is very cool. Let's go down to Texas, where Texas man is acting a lot like Florida man. Police in Houston apprehended a gentleman who stole an ambulance, and where did he take it? Well, not out of the scene. No, how about a jack-in-the-box? Yes, a jack-in-the-box. Emergency lights flashing and everything going through the drive-thru. Paramedics were on a call when a man jumped in and drove off, the Houston police wrote on their Twitter. Officers tracked the ambulance to a fast food outlet where the driver was at the drive-thru ordering food with emergency lights on. Police did not disclose which restaurant, but considering the photo was taken in front of a Jack-in-the-Box, we're going to assume it was Jack-in-the-Box. The suspect had driven too, but photos shared by the Department of Police show the citizen standing outside the Jack-in-the-Box. Of course, the suspect, identified as 36-year-old Ronaldo Deschamps Leonard, he was taken into custody without incident and charged with felony theft. Anybody wonder if there's any drugs or alcohol in that story? I tend to think so. Here's a scary one. Authorities in Chicago confirmed a wheel fell off a small plane over the city and landed in the front yard of a resident's home. The Chicago Department of Aviation said a single-engine Pilatus PC-12 plane was noticed shooting off sparks as it landed Thursday at O'Hare International Airport. After it safely came to a stop, officials noted the landing gear assembly from the left side of the aircraft was missing. Police, meanwhile, responded to the Jefferson Park neighborhood on reports airplane landing gear had fallen on the residential area. Neighbors said the wheel made a loud noise as it crashed to the ground and in a resident's front yard between the house and another home. Man, that's close. Residents said no one was injured by the wheel and there were no reports of significant property damage. The FAA and the National Transportation Safety Board are opening this investigation. Let's move on. A Utah school district had something weird happen. They shared photos from an elementary school that received an unusual visit. A pair of escaped goats. The Granite School District said in a Facebook post that these two goats wandered into Morningside Elementary School from a nearby property. District spokesperson Ben Horsley said the goats belonged to a woman who lives nearby the school. Animal control officers responded to the scene and were able to return the goats to their owner. They were not charged with any sort of mischief or tearing up of school grounds. That is good for the goats. They go home without a criminal record. Very nice. A Canadian company is seeking full-time and part-time candyologists to help serve and as taste testers for the company's confections. Candy Funhouse, based in Mississauga, Ontario, hey, we broadcast there on Saga 960, said the remote working positions offer $47 an hour. You heard that. $47 an hour to sample and review some of the company's 3,000 candy and chocolate treats. I'm telling you, at $47 an hour, I am literally going through one candy an hour. One candy an hour. And there's 3,000 of them. That's a good paycheck. By the way, candidates, finally, time out a second. Finally, something like this is happening in Canada. Our boring nation finally gets a candy sampler, right? I mean, you hear all the promos in the U.S. of, watch 50 Days of Hallmark or whatever for $2,500. I think Nate Rudd did that, him and his son Corey, because they were all over Hallmark during the Christmas break. Our Sasquatch researchers out of Spokane, Washington, Nate and Corey. But this stuff never happens in Canada. So finally we win one. Candidates, by the way, should have enthusiasm and eagerness to try confectionery products, the job posting states. We are looking for honest and objective opinions on the products that will be taste tested. I know a guy who would love this job. I really do. Applications, by the way, are being accepted online through February 15th. Moving on, a South Carolina couple found some amusement at an amusement park. Uh-oh, what's going on here? Well, guess what? The pair was arrested for allegedly filming themselves having sex on top of the Ferris wheel in Myrtle Beach. An arrest warrant stated Eric and Lori Harmon performed an unspecified sexual act while riding the Skywheel and oceanfront Ferris wheel entertainment venue Skywheel. Police said the alleged extracurricular sexual activity took place earlier this month inside a glass gondola that was visible to the public. They added the video was later released on a porn site. Now, how many of you are rushing to Pornhub right now while you're listening to this? Oh, my goodness. Anyways, the pair, both 36, were charged with indecent exposure and preparation of prohibited obscene material. Skywheel officials said they weren't aware of any incidents. Reports said the couple had been charged still for similar incidents recently, including having sex in a community pool. I don't want to be the person who has to disinfect that. I'm just saying. Don't want to be that guy. And finally, you know what? This is brilliant. If you want to get back at someone that you cannot stand, you can now send them some poo. Poo. 2 Toronto University students have launched a company that allows people to send cow poop in the mail. But they say the gag gift is for friends, not enemies. Yeah, right. One of the students, who said they both prefer to stay anonymous, said the pair wanted to come up with a business that derives from its shock and its moral stance. They have a connection to a Caledonian farm that supplies them with cow manure. We had been talking with one of our friends that said they'd heard of this business that sells poo and ships it internationally, he said. We thought that was hilarious that people could make $40 doing that. So the two guys decided to sell a 30-gram bag of poo-poo for $4.20. Where did they get that number from? I don't know, but for $4.20, you can get yourself some really sweet-smelling anyways. So, and yeah, let's move on. For an extra 50 cents, by the way, you can include a personalized message that says, so and so sent you a cow poop gift. Do you care to return the favor or anything else the sender would like? Unless it's harmful or that we may think it's harassment, in which case the order will be deleted. If anything looks sketchy, we will not process the order for a day and reach out to the sender. The idea is to send a friend one of these packets of poo and get them to send one back and engage in a cordial battle of and play on Battleship. Really? Really? I stick with the glitter. If this isn't about being able to send your enemies some poo and the people that you can't stand, I'm not buying into this. Not buying into it. I'll stick with the glitter bombs instead, or the glitter envelopes, because there's nothing worse than glitter. 15 years from now, you will see glitter. If you open up that envelope in your office, you will find the glitter. Glitter never goes away. Poo? I'm not sending poo to a friend. I want to send it to somebody I don't like, damn it. Poo. Thought of the Dave happens every night at this time, where we ask a question on our Facebook and Twitter pages, then read your responses on the air because we love the audience participation around here. Today's Thought of the Dave is as follows. What's your thoughts regarding the Bledsoe family experiences? We're going to start off with Richie G. He's not a believer. He says, so much bull crap, it's ridiculous. Everything they post is super easy to debunk or obviously storytelling time. I don't care if Bob McGuire spent 5 days there and believes. What I see is a guy trying to maintain the mystery. He did have the original experience, but chases it since. I don't think so. I disagree with that. Julie, very genuine people. It resonates with me. Marty, Dr. Marty. He's got a nice beard, by the way, Dr. Marty. He goes, he thinks they're totally awesome. Robot guy, obviously not a believer. He calls them no comment. Linda believes the Bledsoes and their story is very authentic. John, I 150% believe the Bledsoes. I have concerns about the consideration we are agreeing to in this new relationship. I want to know the biases and what is influencing the actions of the others. I fear being deceived. KK Nichols, I find them to be authentic. Marisol, I don't know. But eventually she'll know. Tourneur, seems nice, but if genuine, Chris gives too much credit to it, I don't know if it's a good idea to just believe shiny blonde space women who appear out of thin air and spout prophecies. I'd want a bit more info personally, but maybe that's not your big concern in the moment. Chaos. Bledsoe family owns the best winery in Walla Walla Valley. Have not heard about them since 13 Ballads. Space chicks with death ray guns for Jesus? That sounds cool. Yes, it does. Indeed it does. Let's move on here. Tim. Don't know enough to say, but the family lives next county over, and I worked with quite a few of the family members. Nice southern folk. Lance believes they are fully legit and ongoing. Lisa agrees, saying it's very intriguing and interesting, their story. Nicholas, otherwise known as Dirty Filth. I don't even know a thing about them, to be honest. I am fully expecting to get a cartoon out of the show tonight. I will be taking notes. This is important stuff. I want to see that cartoon, man. I want to see that cartoon. Jack, I find them fascinating. If I had to pick, I'd say the lady is probably the most fascinating aspect of it. Davey, can't wait for them to have all of their SkyHub stuff set up. They are experiencing something that is very, very real. Lance, this is a good start for anyone unfamiliar with Chris Bledsoe. He links in the chat room. Go check out Richard Dolan. All right. Moving on. Michael, I'm skeptical, Dave, especially of the religious visions and predictions of the future. Very contacty cultish. Amy, I would like to know if Ryan thinks there are military abductions and or if rogue current or former government contractors have developed technology to abduct people they may want to study. Does he think there are actually beings from other planets who are visiting, in addition to the spiritual beings his dad talks about? And does he think there could ever be a staged alien invasion by a group to manipulate us? Whatever you two talk about, it'll be so fascinating. Check out the podcast. James, ask if they have any interactions with other people. Marty, they have been chosen by the phenomena to share with us humans. Alex, the Bigfoot on Mars thing is obviously ridiculous, and his anti-ET claim that is replaced by a semi-religious type modality is a problem. Kevin, Dave, Eric is doing well with the Pelicans. Drew, what are you talking about here, Kevin? Are you off on one of your little trips again, if you know what I mean? Scott does the same, gets the final word. Dave, who? Couldn't even find it on Google. That is the thought of the day. We'll do it all again tomorrow. A big thank you to everyone participating on Facebook and Twitter at #SpacedOutRadio. Thank you so much. Thank you to Captain Shirk for the amazing SOR Newswire. And, of course, to Ryan Bledsoe for coming on in and telling just an amazing, amazing story of reality that his family has been going through the last 14 years and what we called the Bledsoe phenomena. It is absolutely amazing. We'll talk to them.
Does the perfect family meal exist? We think so. With 9 pieces of crispy, battered, and breaded Popeye's chicken, add in your choice of 2 large mouth-watering sides, and top it all off with 4 buttery, flaky biscuits. All for just $19.99. Yep, you heard that right. Just $19.99. That sounds like a perfect family meal to us. So what are you waiting for? Get your Popeye's 9-piece family bundle today. Limited time in select U.S. restaurants. Price and participation will vary. In-restaurant only. Tax may apply.
Love that chicken from Popeyes.
Does the perfect family meal exist? We think so. With 9 pieces of crispy, battered, and breaded Popeye's chicken, add in your choice of 2 large mouth-watering sides, and top it all off with 4 buttery, flaky biscuits. All for just $19.99. Yep, you heard that right. Just $19.99. That sounds like a perfect family meal to us. So what are you waiting for? Get your Popeye's 9-piece family bundle today. Limited time in select U.S. restaurants. Price and participation will vary. In-restaurant only. Tax may apply.
Love that chicken from Popeyes.